Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. I'm going both ways on Game of Thrones. Chapter 31. Mccan looked at Jason Lu pleadingly. I will definitely work hard, as long as my sister can stay with you, Bella. She's very obedient and won't add to you. Please now, merciful Lord East. Bella. Jason Lu was stunned and quickly realized that this should be the name of Mccan's sister. Thinking of the tragic life of this 16-year-old boy who lived with his sister after the death of his parents, Jason Lu couldn't help but secretly admired. So, he nodded and said to Mccan gently, "Get up, I promise you. You can ask your sister to help in the store, just let her follow Martha, Lena, Susan and Vanessa Bar." "Thank you, my lord, may the old God bless you and your family," Mccan thanked excitedly. "Get up quickly, remember, Mccan, and all of you." Jason Lu looked at the others. "There is no kneeling in my hometown, and you must not kneel again in the future. Otherwise, I will resign you." "Yes, my lord, we remembered it. These honest peasant children are trained like domestic cattle and horses, and they dare not object at all." Mccan got up from the ground, looked out the door hesitantly, and hesitated. "What's the matter, Mccan?" Jason Lu noticed the blonde boy's strangeness and couldn't help asking. "My lord, my sister is still hiding behind the haystack outside. I want to bring her in," Mccan said uneasily. Jason Lu agreed immediately. Mccan thanked him happily, and ran out of the store. Martha, Lena, take Barlow, Baron, Bud, Susan, Vanessa, and Mccan and his sister, who will be back later, to the house next door to clean. The boy is staying there tonight, and as for Susan, Vanessa and Mccan's sister, stay at your house. Jason Lu makes arrangements. "Yes, my lord, I'll take them there." Martha nodded and agreed with little Vivian in her arms. "Let's go, everyone come with me." Lena held her little nephew Mihal in her hand, and led the three Barlow brothers and Susan to the house on the right. "Lord East bought it, and you guys will live here in the future." Watching Martha and Lena take everyone to the house on the right next door, Jason Lu returned to his room on the second floor, closed the door and teleported back to the modern villa. "The guards have been found, but the equipment is not yet available. I have to buy some equipment." Jason Lu muttered to himself, turned on his mobile phone, and ordered 5 sets of stab-resistant clothing from the stab-resistant clothing manufacturer he bought last time, costing 5,000 yuan. By the way, their clothes are very dirty and torn, and they have to buy some clothes. He went shopping on Taobao again, and finally chose a company that sold labor insurance tooling. According to the approximate size in his memory, he ordered 4 sets of black and durable labor insurance tooling for all employees. This is 40 sets of tooling, and the price is 50 yuan per set, which is very cheap. After writing the address to the warehouse location, Jason Lu looked at the paper and pen he bought last time, and it had already arrived in Jung City, so he called the logistics company and told them to deliver the goods to the warehouse. After doing this, Jason Lu contacted the soap manufacturer and asked the other party to distribute another 100,000 bars of soap and 10,000 bars of soap. Because of the huge number, the owner of the small soap factory, Ma, realized that this was a big moneymaker, and immediately called the phone, thinking about the relationship. Hello, is this Mr. Lu? I'm the owner of the Shungui soap factory. Ma Chunming. Jason Lu is a little strange, why is the other party calling him? But he still said politely, "Hello boss Ma, I bought so much this time, can't the price be the same as last time?" Of course, you are a major customer of our factory and will definitely give you the best price." Boss Ma said quickly. "Regardless of the soaps, all the soaps are charged at 50 fen per piece. How about Mr. Lu? It's not my old man. Ma Kui, you can't get a lower price than me here in other places." "Well, okay, just at this price." Jason Lu was also very happy. "It was half cheaper than the last time. I may need more in the future, but, Boss Ma, you can guarantee the quality of the product. At least don't add any harmful chemicals, although my clients are all from impoverished areas abroad, but we can't have a bad conscience." "Hey, Mr. Lu, don't worry, if my old horse does those black-hearted things that give birth to a son without pea's eyes, I will be hit by a car tomorrow when I go out. The boss Ma swears and swears that he will never do anything harmful, please rest assured." "That's good, but I hope everyone can cooperate for a long time. If the goods are satisfactory this time, I will definitely place a bigger order next time." Although Jason Liu didn't really believe in the integrity of these small businessmen, but the other party was swearing like this, and he couldn't say anything, so he had to hang him with the order behind him, so that he didn't dare to add anything in it. Don't worry, Mr. Liu, my old horse is definitely willing to do business with you for a long time, and I must not smash my brand. On the other side of the phone, the boss Ma slapped his chest thumping. Well, that's good. If possible, ship it as soon as possible. Jason Liu didn't say anything, paid a deposit of 5,000 yuan, urged the other party to ship quickly, and hung up the phone. On the outskirts of Uzbekistan, in a soap production factory with only 4 or 5 factories, the shrewd Ma Chunming, with a flushed face, shouted into the factory, "Old Chen, hurry up and tell the workers to come back to work, come with a big order. It's gone." Lao Chen, a technical engineer of a soap factory who graduated from a pheasant university, learned that someone had placed a large order of 100,000 bars of soap and 10,000 bars of soap, and he suddenly got spirited, took out his mobile phone and called the workers back, ready to start. The machine is in full swing. Because of the epidemic, their soap factory has no business, and the workers' wages cannot be paid, and they almost went bankrupt. This made the 6 people in the factory, including the owner Ma Chunming, very happy. The 4 workers immediately went to work in full swing. Jason Liu didn't know that because of his order, he saved a small soap factory that was facing bankruptcy. At this time, he returned to Westeros and told Lena and Martha that he was going to deliver the goods. Let others take care of the shop. Feeling that Lord Easter was a bit mysterious, Martha and Lena didn't dare to ask any more questions, and hurriedly agreed. After explaining, Jason Liu took advantage of no one to notice, and returned to the room only to return to the modern age. All afternoon, Jason Liu was at the warehouse on the Outer Ring Road, busy receiving the delivery of gel pens, refills and A4 paper. 10,000 gel pens were packed in 5 half-person height large cartons, and 100,000 refills also used 5 large cartons. The logistics driver drove the car directly into the warehouse and unloaded the goods. In the end, 10,000 sheets of A4 paper were sent, and a sheet of paper was about 4.4 grams, almost 44 kilograms, and it was also a large carton. When the logistics driver drove away, Jason Liu checked the time. It was 7 p.m. I ordered a takeaway here at the warehouse, and it was after 8 p.m. after the meal. He was about to deliver the goods to Westeros later, so he played with his phone for a while. Buzz. The phone vibrated, and a message popped up on the WeChat interface. Someone asked to add you as a friend, do you want to add it? Jason Liu opened WeChat and looked at the WeChat account of the WeChat name, XH39218 feet and the words, old classmate, in the note below. He was a little confused, but he clicked to add it. Soon, the opposite message was sent. XH39218, good evening, old school. Jason Liu, or you. XH39218, at least I saw it a few days ago. You won't forget it so soon, will you? Anger. Saw you a few days ago. Jason Liu, or you Lin Xiaohan. XH39218. Well, it's me, and my WeChat ID is also in the class group, don't you recognize it? Smile. In a high-end community in Zheng City, Lin Xiaohan, dressed in white furry pajamas, was sitting on the bed chatting on WeChat. He didn't expect that Jason Liu didn't know his WeChat ID. He thought this guy Gao did it on purpose. Jason Liu, oh, I haven't seen much of the members of the class group, and I don't know your WeChat ID. Now I'll just change your remarks. Having said that, Jason Liu started to change the note to Lin Xiaohan. Lin Xiaohan, well, even if what you said is true, I originally planned to exchange WeChat with you last time, but you are walking too fast, so this is the WeChat I found you in the class group and added. Jason Liu, haha, last time I was in a hurry and left first. Lin Xiaohan, oh, you say yes. Smile smile. Recalling that Jason Liu was molested by his girlfriend and ran away with embarrassment, Lin Xiaohan couldn't help laughing. Jason Liu, do you have anything to do with me? Jason Liu felt a little strange and didn't know what Lin Xiaohan had to do with him. After all, after he and Goddess Lin graduated in the same year, the last time they met was only the first time in 2 years. If it wasn't for Lin Xiaohan adding him on WeChat today, he would have forgotten about it. Lin Xiaohan, I'm sorry, last time my best friend Zhang Chuchu was just joking with you. She likes to make trouble, so don't take it to heart. Jason Liu, oh, it's okay, your best friend is quite lively, hee hee. Jason Liu has a headache when he thinks of that eccentric girl. He is an introvert, and he has never been good at dealing with this kind of girl who escapes from thinking and likes to make jokes. If you see that girl again in the future, you must avoid it far away. No, I hope not to see you again in the future. Lin Xiaohan, it's fine if you don't mind. Seeing you walking so fast, I thought you were angry. Jason Liu complained inwardly, but he wasn't angry when he was angry. He was a single mother and child who couldn't handle the jokes with girls. Jason Liu, well, I don't mind. After the message was sent, there was a long silence between the two. Jason Liu doesn't know what to say next. He has never chased girls and has no experience in chatting with girls. Although I have a good impression of the former school flower goddess, I don't know how to say it. To be precise, I am not confident. I am worried that if my confession is rejected, it will be too embarrassing, so I don't dare, and I don't know what to talk about. Lin Xiaohan on the other end of the phone chatted with her best friend Zhang Chuchu for a long time, but she didn't wait for a message from Jason Liu for a long time, which surprised Goddess Lin. According to past experience, if the animals in the class have the opportunity to chat with themselves, they would like to keep chatting, no matter how impatient she is. But today I met someone who was not interested in chatting with me, which made Lin Xiaohan a little interested. After all, that day, she wore an Armani brand, clean and refreshing, and the most important thing was Jason Liu, who was still handsome. She gave her a good impression and felt that Jason Liu should get along well after graduation. Therefore, Goddess Lin put Jason Liu among those who will be selected in the future, and this is the matter of adding WeChat. Apologizing and explaining for my girlfriend is just an excuse. Mainly, she wanted to get to know Jason Liu. It is rare among classmates who can afford to wear luxury brand names, which shows that Jason Liu is young and promising. She has always wanted to find a capable boyfriend, or at least a successful career. Lin Xiaohan doesn't look down on those rich second-generation scumbags who rely on their parents. Although her family has no money, it is also a well-off family. As an only child, she has not lacked any money since she was a child. After waiting for a while, seeing that the other party really didn't mean to send a message, Lin Xiaohan was curious. Lin Xiaohan, is that how you chat? White eyes. Looking at the message popping up on WeChat, Jason Liu, who was playing a small game, frowned and replied to the message. Jason Liu, is there a problem? Lin Xiaohan, do you have anything to say? Jason Liu, say what? Lin Xiaohan, anything. Looking at the phone, it was late, and it was time to start shipping to Westeros. So he sent a message. Jason Liu, what time do you go to bed at night? Lin Xiaohan, if it's early, it's 10 o'clock, and if it's late, it's more than 11 o'clock. Jason Liu, it's almost 10 o'clock, so go to sleep. I was done and fell asleep. On WeChat, Lin Xiaohan looked at the message sent by the other party. Her face was very exciting for a while, and the corner of her mouth couldn't help twitching. After waiting for a while, I found that the other party had actually been offline. This made Lin Xiaohan both angry and funny. This guy didn't seem to be pretending to be on purpose. He remembered the embarrassed look of the other party's eyes looking left and right when they met last time, and the embarrassing chat content tonight. Lin Xiaohan can already be sure that the man opposite is a straight man of steel. Perhaps, Zhang Chuchu is right, this guy is really a straight male Tai Hanhan with advanced cancer. Depressed, Lin Xiaohan chatted with her girlfriend on WeChat again. In the warehouse in the outer ring, Jason Liu went back and forth several times, sending all the paper and pens to Westeros. He simply stayed there, lying on the bed and fell asleep. The next day, Jason Liu came downstairs yawning, and Martha, Lena had already taken the 7 people they hired yesterday and Bella, an 11-year-old girl, and started to work. Sir, when did you come back? I don't know, Lena asked in surprise, looking at Jason Liu who came downstairs. Too much to say, too many mistakes. Jason Liu didn't want to explain too much, so he pretended to be dignified and said, you don't have to worry about this is the secret of our East family. Hearing that Jason Lu heard about his family, other people who had doubts all shut their mouths, with awe in their eyes. Since it is the secret of the Jason family, they don't dare to inquire about it. Pushing everything to the mysterious East family that he made up, in the future, he would not have to bother to explain to others where his goods came from. As for whether others believe it, that's not what he cares about. Barlow, Baron, Bud, and Mccan, the 5 of you go up with me and carry the load down. Jason Lu took 5 people and carried down the paper and pen in the room. Lena, Martha, Vanessa, Susan, and a little blonde girl in a patched sackcloth were curiously surrounding more than a dozen large cardboard boxes on the ground. The modern characters and patterns on the cardboard box, Jason Lu is not worried that the people who play in the world can understand it. If anyone asks, he will say that it is the language of his hometown. Looking at Mccan standing aside with a grin, Jason Lu asked him, "Is that little girl your sister?" "Yes, my lord." Hearing Lord Easter's question, Mccan immediately stood up and replied respectfully, "This is my sister Bella. She is 11 years old, and she is helping Martha and Lena in the store now. Bella, hurry up and see Mr. Jason." Saying that, Mccan called his sister over to salute Jason Lu. Bella was thin and small, and like his brother Mccan, she appeared to be severely malnourished. The little girl walked over cautiously, looked at Jason Lu timidly with pure blue eyes, and said hello in a low voice, "Master Jason, good day. You're Bella, aren't you? What a cute girl." Jason Lu smiled and gently rubbed the girl's long, silky blonde hair, which looked like it had just been washed and smelled of shampoo. It was Lena who washed the girl's hair with the shampoo he brought from Hyundai. After getting along for a few days, Lena and Martha both knew that Mr. Jason East loves cleanliness, so they also began to pay attention to their own hygiene. Even Mihal was washed clean by his mother and aunt, completely different from the sloppy child before. Hearing the praise from this handsome and kind young noble, the little girl showed a happy smile and lowered her head shyly. "Oh, by the way, I remember the last time I bought candy," Jason Lu suddenly thought. The candy he bought a long time ago was thrown into the backpack in the room, so he went back to the room and took out 2 bags of toffee. "Come on, everyone, come and taste the toffee I brought from my hometown." Jason Lu distributed the candy to everyone, and everyone loved the beautiful candy wrappers wrapped around it. Mihal eagerly peeled off the candy wrapper and put the sugar in his mouth. The strong milky fragrance and sweetness made the little guy narrow his eyes happily. Bella carefully opened the candy wrapper, reached out and pinched the candy, licked it, and the milk-flavored candy instantly brought a big smile on the little girl's face. Martha, Lena, Susan and Vanessa all enjoyed themselves too. Even the 3 Barlow brothers, and Mccan, grinned happily. After eating the candy, Jason Lu clapped his hands and instructed Dick, "Dick, go and invite your father Luos here, just say I have something to look for him." "Yes, my lord." Dick answered honestly, without asking any further questions. He turned his head and ran towards the house. It didn't take long for Old Road's rude voice to come from outside the door. "Come on, Dick, the old god forgive me, how could I have such a stupid son as you, if it wasn't for Lord Jason? I am worried that after I die, you will still be alive. Run faster, do you want your family to wait for you?" With Old Road's scolding, the 2 walked into the store. "Rod, I'm sorry, it might take you a while." Jason Lu looked at Old Road's iconic red nose and almost couldn't help laughing. Old Road lifted his foot and kicked his younger son's butt, scolded, "Hurry up," in a low voice, and then walked over with a respectful and enthusiastic smile as if he had changed his face. "It's a villain's honor to be able to serve you, Lord Jason." Old Road smiled, although his mouth was full of alcohol, his eyes were clear. "Please tell me, my lord, as long as the villain can do it, we'll definitely serve you. I'm going to demolish these dilapidated houses I just bought, and build a bigger storefront and a warehouse. I don't know who to call for this kind of house building." Jason Lu didn't talk nonsense, and directly stated his purpose of looking for Old Roads. After listening to the words of the nobles in front of him, Old Road suddenly understood the purpose of looking for him. So, he confidently made the ticket. "Don't have to worry about you, as long as the money is enough. He can help find someone to do it, and ensure that the new house will be built according to Jason Lu's requirements." Seeing that Old Road was so confident, Jason Liu was also happy to leave this matter to him. After all, he didn't have time to focus on the trivial matters of building a house. After the negotiation, Old Rhodes went back to his tavern to talk to his wife Roma, put on his bearskin hat, and went to find a familiar mason. Now that the three Barlow brothers, Dick and Mccan, are going to be recruited as guards, Jason Liu is going to take them to buy weapons. Westeros's bulky and imposing agile armor is no longer needed, and he has ordered light and strong stab-resistant suits for 5 people. Today I mainly buy iron swords, shields and spears. Bringing the money bag, Jason Liu and the 5 went straight to the blacksmith shop in the winter market town. Call. Ding 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 ding. The fire in the blacksmith's shop was blazing, and the heat wave was blowing toward the face, and the hammering sound kept ringing. Although the blacksmith master Raymond has gray hair, his naked upper body is full of muscles and looks very strong. I learned that this famous person in the winter market town recently, who is said to be a great noble from the Far East adopting empire, wants to buy weapons. Although he does not know how far this so-called Far East is, there is no reason to refuse the business. Knowing that this young great noble was not short of money, Master Raymond directly took out the best swords, spears and shields in the blacksmith shop. Jason Liu picked up an iron sword curiously, and started with a heavy one. The sword's body glowed with a cold light, and it looked pretty good. An iron sword costs 20 silver deer, a spear costs 7 silver deer, and an iron-clad shield is the cheapest, only 4 silver deer. Jason Liu bought 5 iron swords, 5 spears, and 5 shields. A total of 155 silver deer were spent. Originally, he also wanted to buy a sword to play with, but thinking that the smelting technology in this era is too poor, let it go. If there is a chance in the future, I can directly find someone to order a beautiful, tough and sharp alloy steel sword in modern times, which is definitely much better than the iron sword of Westeros. The first time I took a sword, the 5 people were both novel and clumsy. After all, they used to work in the fields with farm implements and never practiced using swords, so their movements were inevitably a bit ugly. Jason Liu shook his head with a wry smile. Although children from farm families are honest and obedient, they also need constant training to become a qualified soldier. He really doesn't understand the military training. Before military training, there would be a queue. It seems that there is still a chance to find a swordsman instructor to train these boys. In the afternoon, just after buying the weapons, Jason Liu, who had not had time to bite the bullet and get on the horse himself, instructed the 5 Mccans to practice swordsmanship, was surrounded by several masons and builders brought by Old Rhodes. Master East, how big of a store do you want to build? Is it stone or wood? Different materials have different construction plans. How did you think about the warehouse? How big is it to build? What are the materials? You want to build it as soon as possible. If you want to build it quickly, you will have to recruit a lot of people, and I'm afraid the cost will be very high. These masons in the winter market town, who had been timid when they saw him, immediately became confident and dared to ask their own questions when they talked about their professional work of building a house. Very good, I am glad that you have raised so many questions that I have not considered in detail before. Jason Liu raised his hand and pressed it down, motioning for these masons with messy hair and shabby clothes like ordinary people in the winter market town to calm down, and then continued, I bought these houses behind me. These musty houses look like they are going to collapse at any time. The first thing you have to do is to demolish them all. A few young masons looked up at the 5 or 6 houses on the opposite side. These are the wooden houses that the townspeople of Bidongji town generally live in. They are completely similar to their wooden houses. They didn't see it. These houses could collapse at any time. Although they were somewhat disapproving, they felt that these houses were not as bad as the young adult in front of them said, but they did not dare to object. After all, you will have to rely on the grace of Lord East to help you earn money, right? As long as they are paid, they will do what the employer asks. Jason Liu roughly explained his requirements, such as building the storefront first, all of which are made of stone. Then there are the warehouses for storing goods, which are also built of stone, and are waterproof and snowproof. After all, is it possible that there will be heavy snow in the north, so don't crush your warehouse. Pull up a stone fence, at least 3 meters high, to enclose all the houses. Next is the main house where he lives, as well as the house where the guards and staff live, a large kitchen, and a small school field. Well, the focus of the toilet has made some suggestions. The toilets for men and women are separated, and it is best to dig a large septic tank. Septic tank. What is this? A few masons were dumbfounded. Seeing the blank faces of the masons, Jason Liu patted his head. Forget it, I personally know what you guys built by then. After some discussion, the masons and house builders in Bidong Market Town said that they could do this job completely. I need you to build with the fastest speed. As many people are needed, I can directly recruit them in the Winter Shelter Market Town and the surrounding cottages. It doesn't matter if I spend more money, I only care about the speed. Jason Liu emphasized at the end. Since the money is no problem, several masons said that the speed is no problem. They will call all the idle masons in the surrounding villages, and then recruit more people to work, and they will be able to build the East University with the fastest speed, man's house. As for the wages, these masons quoted them as 30 silver deer each. Jason Liu said it was no problem, and promised that as long as the houses built were of good quality and fast, he would finally give them an extra reward in addition to the wages. This made the masons flush with excitement, eager to recruit people to work immediately. The job of recruiting other masons is handed over to these masons. After all, they all do this, and most of them know each other. A large number of ordinary helpers, this Jason Liu decided to recruit himself, not to let the masons intervene. After all, he intends to give these ordinary helpers better treatment to prevent these masons from turning into black-hearted contractors and squeezing the money of ordinary helpers. The second reason is to give better treatment, and recruit people from Bidongji town and nearby villages to work in a large range, which is equivalent to giving most people a benefit. The locals have a good relationship. It is foreseeable that he should stay in the north to do business for a long time, and it is also very important for him to have a good relationship with these local people. At least until he develops and has a certain ability to protect himself and his property, he will never go to other parts of Westeros. It is because the world is too unsafe. Wretched development is king. After all, the life of the dog is the most important thing. After sending away the masons who were in a hurry to gather the masons in the nearby village, Jason Liu asked Bard, the youngest and most clever of the 3 Barlow brothers, to run home and find his parents. Susan was also sent to call her parents Hog and Shula. The pub in Old Roads was directly contracted by Jason Liu, who was responsible for all the meals when the house was built. When Old Road heard the young adult's thoughts, his eyes widened in shock, and he cried out, You mean, you want to take care of all the workers' meals? Why, can't your pub serve so many people? Jason Liu looked at him strangely, wondering why he was making such a fuss. No, my lord, my tavern is enough for hundreds of people to eat. Old Road shook his head first, and then shouted, But, you just pay them wages, you don't need to worry about food. This kind of thing has never happened in the north. Seeing the anxious expression on his face, he said this, breathing out white air, like an Old Road who was thinking about himself. Jason Liu smiled, Then, when I come here, I have it. Old Roads persuaded the young adults in front of him to change their minds, and it was a great loss to spend so much money to feed those lazy farmers like animals. However, Jason Liu has his own plans, and the internal reasons cannot be explained to Old Roads. So, he took out the majesty of a nobleman and forced it to do so. Old Road was helpless and could only agree. Of course, this is also a good thing for him. After all, the money given by Lord East allows him to make a lot of money. Not long after, Bud, who was not far from the Winter Market town, brought his parents Dillion and Vamida, and Susan also came with her parents, Hogshura. The 2 respectful-looking farmer couples carefully greeted Jason Liu. Last time I said that I didn't like others to kneel, so the 4 of them just bowed deeply and saluted. Dirian, Vamida, Hog and Shula, I want to hire you to help the Old Roads family cook for the house workers. Maybe there are other chores in between, I'll pay for each one. Would you like to give you 10 silver deer? Jason Liu directly laid out the conditions. Hearing that they could get 10 silver deer as a reward, the 4 of them immediately agreed in succession with joy on their faces, feeling that today must be their lucky day. No, Master Jason East is their lucky god. Seeing that the 4 agreed, Jason Liu asked Lena to fetch 100 silver deer, and handed it over to Old Rhodes to buy food. After the start of work, he started serving meals. Then let Martha take Dillion, Vamida, Hogg, and Shula to start recruiting helpers in the winter market town and surrounding villages. Jason Liu has only one request, to recruit more people, and only one person per family, so that more families can work. With Jason Liu's instructions, plus a high salary of 20 bronze stars per day, and 3 meals a day, such favorable conditions were released, and hundreds of people came to apply. It's just that Martha strictly followed Jason Liu's instructions and chose strong people. Only one family was recruited, and as many people as possible were recruited. This afternoon, and even tossing it down at night, a total of 248 people were recruited. Martha was a little nervous, this number was a bit too much. Jason Liu doesn't care. After all, people are more powerful and work faster. In this backward era, building a house requires more people. After all, transporting stones, digging earth, etc., all have to be done by people. The helpers here have been recruited, and the masons over there have also brought tools and are ready to start working tomorrow. Well, these masons contacted their nearby counterparts and formed a technical team, as Jason Liu calls these architectural talents. Although those masons didn't understand what a technical team was, as long as the nobleman was happy, he would call his love what he wanted. After all the people were found, work started the next day. The 5 wooden houses were directly pushed down by everyone. After the wooden house fell, hundreds of people rushed up, moved the logs to one side and stacked them, and cleared out all the sites. Since the house was built, Jason Liu decided to rebuild it all, so he moved from the original room to Lena and Martha's house. Originally, Jason Liu wanted to rebuild Masha and the others, but Masha refused. Mccan's guards, because they couldn't train, simply went to the construction site to help. Businesses are also moved to Martha's house, and Lena is busy with Susan, Venisa and Bella. Anyway, the ones who have come to buy recently are small businessmen, and the quantities they ask for are not large, so it is easy to deal with them. Jason Liu acted as a supervisor at the construction site, discussing the construction of the house with the craftsmen from time to time and making some requests. In Winterfell, it belongs to the small courtyard of Vayn Pool. As director of Winterfell, serving the Stark family faithfully for almost 30 years, Vayn Pool has won the trust of Duke Eddard Stark. Therefore, it is normal to have a small courtyard of your own in the castle. In the evening, Wei Yong, who had dinner, was in charge of the family, and the family rarely had time to enjoy leisure time together. Jenny Poole, the daughter of director Wei Yong, is Miss Sansa's maid and good friend. She is responsible for taking care of Miss Sansa's daily life. The two girls are about the same age and have a very close relationship. Jenny is 12 years old this year, with long black smooth hair and a few small freckles scattered on her upturned nose. She is a lively and lovely girl. This only daughter is deeply loved by her father, General Manager Wei Yong. What are these white lumps, father? Jenny noticed the soap on the table, opened the simple carton package, and saw the white soap inside. Jenny asked curiously. Director Wei Yong was drinking black tea, lying on the back of the chair, glanced at what his daughter was holding, and said casually, "It seems to be called soap. This is a gift from the foreign noble from the Far East in Bidong Market Town. My gift. It is said that it can be used to clean the oil on the body and clothes. I don't know if it is really as useful as he said." Carrying the freshly brewed black tea in her hand and pouring a cup for her daughter, Bucky couldn't help but praised after hearing her husband's words, "It's really useful. I used it to wash my clothes today, and the oil stains on my clothes were washed away. It has to be clean. I finished cooking and the oil stains on my hands were just a little bit of that white soap, and it was very clean without any nasty greasy feeling. This thing called soap is amazing." Quote. Butch, who had already tried it today, couldn't help showing a happy smile on her face when she talked about soap, which is a good cleaning product. Really? Hearing her mother say this, Jenny suddenly became interested. "Let me try." After speaking, she brought a basin of water. Under the guidance of her mother, she wet her hands with water, smeared some soap, and rubbed for a while. White foam immediately appeared on her hands. After rinsing off the foam with water, Jenny took a towel to dry her hands. "Huh, She lowered her head and sniffed her freshly washed hands, and Jenny's face was full of surprise and joy. Not only are the hands no longer greasy, but they are clean and smell good. Is it? I just said that this thing called soap is very useful. Bu-chi was very happy, and her daughter agreed with herself. Your father said that this can not only wash clothes, wash hands and face, but also take a bath. I will plan tonight. Try it. I want to try too. Jenny said happily. In the evening, Jenny and her mother took a bath with soap, and they became very clean and fresh, and even exuded a good smell. The next day, Jenny, who was in a good mood, took a bar of soap and prepared to give it to her good sister, Miss Sansa. I believe she would love this fragrant and cleanable good thing as much as herself. Really? Sansa looked suspicious after hearing her continuous compliments from her maid and good friend Jenny. Looking at the pure white piece in her hand, it exudes an indescribable fragrance called soap. After hesitating for a while, Sansa, like a 12-year-old girl, finally couldn't hold back the temptation and asked the other maids to prepare to take a bath. Water, she wants to try it herself. Is this soap 100 times better than saponin, as Jenny said. Soon, the bath was ready to go to sleep, and Jenny helped Sansa scrub herself. After taking a bath, Sansa felt very refreshed. She had long, burgundy, smooth hair inherited from her mother, and Sansa's delicate and fair face further brought out the beauty of the girl. It's true, Jenny, what you said is right. This thing called soap is really very useful. I feel that I have never felt so fresh on my body. Sansa's blue eyes shone with surprise, and said happily, hugging Jenny. Really? Miss Sansa, can I try? I want it too, I want it too. Several other maids who were about the same age as Sansa also wanted to try it. Sansa was generous and gave them both a soapy bath. After washing, these little girls fell in love with soap, a white and fragrant little thing. Jenny, where did you buy this soap? Tell me now, I'm going to buy one to use too, one of the maids asked Jenny, pulling her. The other maids also looked at her expectantly. Some enjoyed the attention of the girls, and Jenny told them the truth, telling them that this thing can be bought in the shop of the foreign noble from the Far East in the market town. Sansa and the girls secretly wrote down the names, thinking that they would find a time to buy a piece from the shop of the grown-up in Bywinter Market Town. In the evening, after Sansa had dinner with her family, she went back to the room to get the soap that she had found in a delicate wooden box, and walked into her sister Arya's room with a smug expression. With good things, little kids can't help but want to show it off. Arya, Sansa walked slowly into her sister's room, one step at a time, neither in a hurry nor slow, completely in line with the lady's pace that Sister Mordane required. Compared to her sister Arya, who is always annoyed by Sister Mordane, who is called a stone-headed and a tomboy by Sister Mordane, Sansa has perfectly mastered the embroidery and knitting required by a nun as a noble lady, etiquette, etc. Seeing Sansa walk in, Arya rolled her eyes, turned around and made it to the bed, with her legs on the edge of the bed, dangling constantly. What are you doing here? Why don't you embroider with your little sisters? Sansa glanced at Arya's dangling legs, and couldn't help saying, Arya, you can't dangle your legs like this, as a lady, it's so rude. Arya, who was taught by Sister Mordane every day, could not do well at all, and even hated embroidery and etiquette. Sansa, who was jealous and disliked the appearance of a good girl in her clothes, heard Sansa accuse her, and Arya was not to be outdone. I like it like this, don't worry about it. You, Sansa blushed with anger, staring at her sister with azure blue eyes. Arya did not show weakness, and looked at Sansa with the same gray eyes as her father. After staring at each other for a while with Arya, Sansa finally lost to the wild boy sister, and decided to wait and tell her mother and let her take care of her. The blushing of anger on her face gradually dissipated, and Sansa finally remembered the purpose of her coming to Arya, simply to show off. Look, Arya, I got a good one. Sansa carefully opened the wooden box, revealing the white soap inside. Arya glanced at the wooden box, then looked at Sansa suspiciously. What is this? Seeing that Arya was attracted by the things in her hand, Sansa's little face was even more proud. This is given to me by Jenny. It is said that the nobleman from the Far East in Bywinter Town brought it from his hometown. Only a precious soap for washing clothes, washing hands, washing faces, and bathing only for the great nobles. What kind of nobles can use it? This is purely Sansa's own brain supplement. She felt that such a good thing must only be used by the great nobles. Arya was really attracted by Sansa's introduction, but she still pretended not to care. HMPH, isn't it the same as the soap we used? It's not the same. Sansa's face was smug, and her tone was a little disdainful. Soap is much easier to use than saponin, and it's clean. After washing it, there will be a special fragrance. If you don't believe it, you can smell it, but I am just washed. Saying that, Sansa put her arm in front of Arya. Arya looked at her, and the little boy, always curious, lowered his head and sniffed on Sansa's hand. There is indeed a special aroma. Arya subconsciously raised her hand and smelled it. She had just taken a shower and used saponin, but there was no such fragrance on her hand, and she could even smell a faint smell of sweat. This made Arya look embarrassed. When Sansa saw her sister's performance, she immediately realized that she had succeeded in showing off. The corners of her mouth could not help but curl up, and a smile appeared on her face. Hee, Arya, do you want soap? If you want, we will find you someday. How about going to the shop of the foreign noble in the winter market town together to buy more? When she heard that she could walk out of the Winterfell castle to visit the winter shelter market town, Arya suddenly came to her senses. I heard Jenny say that in addition to soap, the aristocrat's shop also has a lot of amazing products from his hometown. Sansa folded her arms around her chest, with a look of longing on her face. Maybe it's true. There's nothing better than soap. I'm going too. Arya couldn't help shouting. Then it's settled. You go to your father, I'll go to my mother, and let them promise to let us go out. Sansa finally said her real plan. No problem, no problem. Arya decided to agree to Sansa's proposal in order to be able to hang out. Okay, we're done. Sansa felt that her little plan had succeeded, and she was about to go back to her room with a smile. Wait a minute, Sansa, let me use that soap of yours, I'll see if it really works as you said. Arya stopped her, staring at the wooden box in her hand. Sansa subconsciously refused, but, thinking of asking Arya to help, as long as her father and mother agreed, they could go out and buy more soap, so it is not unacceptable that this soap should be used by Arya. Having figured this out, Sansa nodded reluctantly. Yes, but you have to be careful with it. That's all I have. Arya nodded quickly, reached out and quickly snatched the wooden box from Sansa's hand, and then ordered the maid outside the door to prepare a bucket of hot water, and she wanted to take a shower again. Sansa stayed in Arya's room and waited until Arya finished taking a shower, ignoring Arya happily telling about the magic of soap, and hurried back to her room after getting her soap back. White Harbor is the largest harbor city in the north, and the Mandalay family is the master here. As the largest port in the north, the White Harbor is home to many merchant ships from Westeros and the free cities across the narrow sea. The prosperity of business and trade has led to numerous taverns and inns in Bygang, and the sailors on the ship who are constantly coming and going have also prospered the business of the women's branch in Bygang. Ragged fishermen, pushing carts loaded with fish caught in the sea in the morning, hawked along the street on the pier. Wagons loaded with goods, one after another, passed between the port and the wharf. The upstairs of the store facing the street suddenly opened from time to time, and a woman poured a basin of water down, and the unlucky person who happened to pass by was often drenched, causing the women upstairs to laugh loudly. Barefooted children, holding toys such as wood and wire picked up from the rubbish heap, chased and scrambled to and fro in the alley, and from time to time there were shouts of scolding from men. The entire Bygang city was full of vitality for a while. Compared with the territories of other nobles in the north, Bygang was obviously richer. In particular, White Harbor City, which is the main commercial connection between the northern border and other territories, has brought a lot of wealth to the Mandalay family. Todd, a small businessman from White Harbor City, took out his only silver deer in the winter market town outside Winterfell 5 days ago, and bought 10 gel pens and 50 gel pens from Jason Liu. Refills, and 50 blank sheets of paper, desperate to make a fortune. Yes, according to Todd's more than 10 years of experience in the business, this magical gel pen and refill with many advantages, as well as white and flexible white paper, quills, inks and the parchment was too strong. This kind of thing is simply born for the nobles. At that time, he saw these things, and saw the young noble from the Far East demonstrate with his own eyes, Todd couldn't help shouting in the bottom of his heart, "Buy, you must buy as many as possible." Therefore, he not only emptied his purse, but also sold the high-quality wheat from the east that he had worked so hard to transport from Baigang to Bidong Market Town to those townspeople at a lower price. The silver deer also bought this magical paper and pen. After spending all the silver deer on his body, and with only a few dozen copper stars left, Todd drove the carriage back to Baigang with a fiery heart. Hundreds of kilometers away, Todd hurriedly spent less than 5 days, and finally returned to Baigang City. "Todd, why did you come back so soon?" Wife Doreen opened the door and saw her husband, whose face was pale, and helped drive the carriage into the house worriedly. Todd's face was pale and bloodshot in his eyes, but he was still in high spirits. "Hurry up and get me something to eat and drink. I'm almost exhausted from the way back from Winterfell." Wife Doreen brought the evening's toast, and 10-year-old eldest daughter Eudora carried a kettle and poured Todd a full glass of water. Grumbling, "Ha!" Todd poured the water in the cup directly, then let out a comfortable moan #yin, glanced at his eldest daughter. Todd waved his hand, "Eudora, go and boil me some hot water, I'll take a good shower later, and I'll go out later." "Oh, I'll go right now, father." Eudora nodded obediently, and hurriedly entered the kitchen to prepare hot water, which she had done for her mother many times. He picked up the toasted bread that was still steaming on the table. Because of his hard work, their family life was not bad. At least the bread was half wheat, not the kind of black bread that was mixed with an unknown amount of sawdust and was as hard as bricks. Chewing on the bread, Todd looked around the room, but didn't see his youngest son, and asked his wife Doreen, "Where's that kid Claret?" Doreen was in the small yard, leading the horses back to the stables, preparing hay and water for the horses. Hearing her husband's question, Doreen wiped the sweat from her forehead and replied, "Claret ran out to play and hasn't come back yet. But he should press fast, it's almost time for dinner, he'll come back when he's hungry." Todd nodded. Not surprisingly, children from poor families are like this. When they were young, a large group ran around and played crazy, just like when he was a child. Ignoring his younger son, Todd devoured the whole piece of long bread and drank 2 more glasses of water, feeling that his stomach finally felt better. When Doreen finished feeding the horses, she saw that her husband only ate bread, and she couldn't help but say, "Why did you eat all the bread? There's still carrot soup in the pot, and I'm about to serve it." "Forget it, I'm full, and I have something to go out later. Please put the hot water for me, and I'll go out after taking a shower." Todd waved his hand, then walked into the room, opened the musty-smelling closet, found his best set of clothes, and prepared to change into it after taking a shower. Doreen wondered why her husband was in such a hurry, but she still carried Eudora's hot water with a wooden bucket and poured it into the tub in the room, and adjusted the temperature with cold water. Todd took off his clothes and scrubbed his body in the bathtub. The person he was waiting to see was very important to him, but he couldn't let the smell on his body offend him. After taking a shower and putting on his best clothes, Todd greeted his wife, took 2 gel pens, 2 refills and a piece of white paper, and walked out of the house. Not long after walking out of the door, I saw a thin figure running quickly from a distance. Todd reached out and grabbed the other's collar. Feeling the struggle of his men, Todd couldn't help but scolded, "Claret, you fool, come back so late, don't you want to eat dinner?" 5-year-old Claret, who is thin and small, but has very smart eyes, stopped struggling when he heard his father's familiar voice, hugged Todd's thigh with open arms, and shouted happily, "Father, it's great to be back." "You fool." Todd's originally tense face suddenly melted. He touched his son's little head, slapped lightly, and scolded with a smile, "Go home for dinner, I'm going out for a while. Come back, I'll take care of you later." Claret's dirty little face walked around his father with a smile, and then ran home in a hurry. Watching his son come home, Todd touched the paper and pen in his arms, and walked towards Whiteport Castle with a fiery heart. "Todd, why are you here now?" One of the soldiers guarding the gate of the Mandalay family castle recognized Todd and said jokingly, "Does this guy start a business at night like Lorana?" Lorana is a well-known female branch daughter in the Baigang female branch. "I heard that many knights like her very much." "Ha ha ha, this guy Todd looks so ugly, even those aristocratic gentlemen who like men will definitely despise him," another soldier laughed happily. Being teased by these two soldiers, Todd didn't dare to say anything, he could only laugh with him. Haha, I can't do it. If the nobleman sees me, I'm sure he'll be so frightened that his words will be soft. Ha ha ha. The two soldiers burst into laughter again. After laughing, Todd said his purpose. He wanted to find the chief chillman of the Mandalay family, and hoped that any one of them could help to find it. He said that he had some goods in his hand that he should like. One of the soldiers smiled and said to let him go to the tavern next time for a treat. After Todd agreed, he talked to another soldier and ran into the castle himself to find Chief Chellman. Todd was chatting with another soldier outside the gate. Todd, who often travels to and from various territories in the north to do business, has good knowledge, and the two chatted happily. Blah blah. There was a sound of footsteps, and then I saw Chief Chillman in a gray silk coat, walking eagerly behind the soldier. Todd, you better be like you said, you have something I'm interested in, otherwise, don't even think about selling your goods into the castle next time. Chief Chairman complained. Come on, come over. With a ruddy complexion and a slightly raised belly, it seemed that he was living a good life. Todd immediately bent over and greeted him with a humble smile on his face. Of course, esteemed Chief Chairman, I believe you must be interested in the magical goods that come from the Far East in my hands. Hearing Todd say this, Chief Chillman couldn't help but wonder, hurry up and show it to me. Todd then took out the gel pen and white paper in his arms. Mr. Chillman, look, this is a magical pen and paper from the Far East, which is more convenient than the quill and parchment you usually use. If you don't believe me, you can try it. Todd generously contributed this A4 piece of paper and had Chillman write on it with a gel pen. Chillman held a gel pen slightly unaccustomed, and tried to write on the white paper. It was a little jerky at first, but he quickly became proficient. This kind of pen does not need to be dipped in ink from time to time, or is careful not to worry that the handwriting will not be stained by clothes or something. This kind of pen called gel pen is indeed very convenient and comfortable to hold. Ah, it's really interesting, a very good pen. Chillman's eyes are full of love. With this kind of pen, he can write and process documents faster, and the efficiency will be much improved. Chillman picked up the white piece of paper and leaned closer to the torch outside the door, and took a closer look. This kind of paper he had never seen before and did not know what to make of. It was clearer than parchment. If this kind of pen and paper were handed over to Earl Wyman, surely the Earl would also like it, right? Chillman thought of this and was immediately moved, so he asked Todd to wait here for a while. He would give this kind of paper and pen to Lord Earl to try and see if the other party liked it. Todd was very surprised. He didn't expect to send it directly to Earl Wyman Mandalay. If the distinguished Earl liked it, all the pens and papers in his hand would be sold. So Todd took out the refill again and introduced it to Chillman. Chillman was surprised and delighted that changing refills was much easier than dipping ink back and forth. Bringing gel pen, refill and white paper, Chief Chillman hurried into the castle. Earl Wyman and his family had just finished their supper when Chillman came in, and the servants began to remove their plates. My lord, the merchants in Bygang brought some very good things, I think you should be interested. Chillman walked over to Earl Wyman, bowed his body, and whispered. Oh, what is it? Earl Wyman twisted his fat body, slumped in the chair and turned to look at Chillman. The countess present, the sons and daughters of Earl Wyman, also looked over curiously. So Chillman took out a gel pen, refill and white paper, exaggerated what he heard from Todd, and finally concluded, it is said that this is from somewhere in the Far East, a good thing that only nobles can use. Well, don't care about anything, as long as it is reserved for nobles, it must be good. After hearing Chillman's description, Earl Wyman became more interested. Under Chillman's soft guidance, Earl Wyman took a gel pen and wrote on the white paper himself. The faster I wrote, the faster the Earl finally fell in love with this kind of gel pen that had to be dipped in ink without writing a few words. Of course, this white glossy paper is also very good, the writing is very clear after writing, and it is not as easy to blur as ink. Vera, the 13-year-old daughter of Earl Wyman, looked at her father's pen curiously and couldn't help but admire. This kind of pen is really good, father, you can write very quickly. I will also use this kind of pen in the future. Writing, it's much better than a thin quill. Well, this kind of pen is very good. Sir Willis Mandalay, the eldest son and heir of Earl Wyman, couldn't help but say. The Countess and eldest daughter Wilfield next to them also nodded in agreement. Well, this kind of pen is really comfortable to use. The quill is too thin. After a long time, it hurts my finger hair. Earl Wayman stroked the barrel of the pen with his thick fingers, and his eyes were full of love. He turned to look at Sherman beside him, and said, "Sherman, you did a good job. Go to that merchant and buy more from him. Some of these pens, oh, and this kind of paper. Let everyone write with this pen in the future." "Yes, my lord, I'll do it now." Sherman received the compliment from the Earl, a bright smile suddenly appeared on his face, and then turned around and hurried to the castle gate. While Todd was anxiously waiting, Sherman's chubby face appeared outside the gate with a bright smile. "Dear Todd, I have good news for you. The pen and paper you brought are liked by Lord Earl and the young masters and ladies. Hurry up and take out the pen and paper. I want to buy a lot." Sherman was all smiles, and his attitude was much better than before. Todd resisted the excitement in his heart and said after a while, "It is an honor for the villain to be favored by the Count's adults. I still have 8 gel pens, 49 refills and 49 sheets left in my house. White paper, look. Is there only so much? It's a bit less." Sherman frowned slightly, but nodded, "I want it all." "Todd, tell me a price." 4 silver deer for a gel pen, 2 silver deer for a refill, and 50 bronze stars for a piece of white paper. Todd swallowed, tentatively quoted a high price, and then looked at Keel uneasily. "Man. Well, although it's a bit expensive," Sherman just mumbled, "the price is more expensive than a quill and parchment, but to the Mandalay family, it's nothing." Sherman didn't bargain, and bought all the paper and pens in Todd's hands at this price. Todd, who was overjoyed, ran home quickly, shouting excitedly from the bottom of his heart, he made a fortune, and this time he really made a fortune. After returning home and taking all the remaining paper and pens, Todd ignored his wife's complaints and rushed out of the house. In less than 20 minutes, Todd was sweating profusely, and ran back outside the castle gates panting heavily. Sherman took all the paper and pens and counted them, no problem. 10 gel pens cost 40 silver deer, 50 refills cost 100 silver deer, and 50 sheets of white paper cost 25 silver deer. Steward Sherman took out a golden dragon and 65 silver deer from his purse and paid Todd. Todd quickly put away the money, and in the envious eyes of the 2 soldiers at the door, said goodbye to Mr. Sherman, and returned home in a very happy mood. Todd was very happy, because the cost was only 40 silver deer, he sold 1 golden dragon and 65 silver deer, and this trip made a full 1 golden dragon and 25 silver deer, which was the most he made in his life. Excited, Todd almost shouted a few words. "I made up my mind that I will go to the Winterfell market town in Winterfell tomorrow to find the respected and great Lord East, and buy more gel pens and white paper. There are many nobles in Bygang City who should like it. This paper and pen." Todd, who was so excited, tossed and tossed on the bed and couldn't sleep, until his wife scolded him a few words. He lay down honestly and stopped tossing and turning, but he was still excited. With the efforts of more than 200 people, the site has been cleaned up yesterday in the winter-preserving market town outside Winterfell City. The masons began to draw lines with white ash, and the foundation will be dug next. More than 200 people came early and ate the breakfast sent by Old Road, hog and dillion, all the black bread, and the hot carrot diced soup, which made the helpers smile. Even the masons were happy. Everyone once again thanked Mr. Jason East for his kindness and generosity, and patted his chest to promise that he would work hard and build a house for Mr. Easter as soon as possible. These rudimentary foods in the eyes of Jason Lew were praised by all the workers present, and his generosity and kindness of Lord Jason East spread farther. In the morning, I visited the construction site that was in full swing. These strong laborers who were used to heavy work, digging foundations, moving stones, pushing mud, and carrying wood, all moved very neatly. Jason Lew, the father of Party A, was very satisfied. Returning to the room specially prepared for him on the 2nd floor at Lena's house, Jason Lew teleported back to the modern age. The 100,000 bars of soap and 10,000 bars of soap he ordered from Boss Ma's soap factory have already been delivered from Uzbekistan. After contacting the logistics driver, Jason Lew went to the restaurant in the city center for lunch, and then took a taxi to the warehouse. A heavy truck drove into the warehouse, and 2 masters who followed the truck unloaded the goods. Jason Lu thanked the master and waited until the logistics truck left, and then closed the warehouse door from the inside. He picked 10,000 bars of soap and 1,000 bars of soap, and shipped the boxes to Westeros several times. Called the 3 Barlow brothers, Mccan and Dick, 5 young lads, who have been with Jason Lu these days. Moved downstairs. Although Lena and the others were curious about how Lord Easter quietly transported so many goods, no one dared to ask any more questions after being warned last time that this was the secret of the Easter family. In the evening, in the small hall of Winterfell, the Stark family and the important helpers of the castle gathered at the long dining table. Guardian of the North, Duke of Winterfell Ed Stark, brown hair, gray eyes, his face is as serious as ever, the short stiff beard on his chin has been trimmed and has been a little gray. He was seated at one end of the long table, with the family on his right, wife Lady Catelyn, then eldest son Robb Stark, eldest daughter Sansa Stark, second daughter Arya Stark, second son Brandon Stark, youngest son Rickon Stark. Sitting first on the left is Maester Luwin, the Winterfell consultant, physician and tutor. Next to Maester Luwin and down, sat in order, Winterfell's headmaster Vian Poole, coach Sir Roderick Kessel, and guard captain Jory Kessel. And then there's Jon Snow, the illegitimate child. The boy who had a thorn in Mrs. Catelyn's heart, though not admitted to be a member of the Stark family, could not sit on the right with her children. But because her husband Ed insisted on letting the illegitimate child sit at the table with them, this happened many times. Even so, Mrs. Catelyn couldn't help but get angry every time she saw the boy, so she always its a cold face. Ed is of course aware of his wife's unhappiness, but in order to keep the secret about Jon's life experience and protect the children left by his sister Lyanna after her death, he can only bear the stigma of being unfaithful in marriage and having illegitimate children. Endured his wife's incomprehension and the condemnation of his inner honor. Maester Luwin, Chief Vayan, the old coach Sir Roderick, and Eddard's captain of the bodyguard, Carrie, were all aware of this, and understand and sympathize with Lady Catelyn in their hearts. After all, there are very few noble adults in Westeros who not only admit that there are illegitimate children outside, but even dare to bring them home to raise them. This is simply a naked humiliation of his wife. Hardly anyone would do this. However, Lord Eddard, who is known throughout Westeros for his integrity, kindness, and honor-conscious noble character, did so. Privately, Steward Vian, Sir Roderick, and even the servants of Winterfell were quite critical of this. To be honest, Jon has been able to live safely in Winterfell for more than 10 years now, and even has a pretty good life, enough to see Mrs. Catelyn's extraordinary kindness. Although, Mrs. Catelyn has never given this fool a good face in more than 10 years. But being able to tolerate him living by her side, seeing this child every day, is like being reminded of her husband's infidelity in person, and being tortured by such pain. Mrs. Catelyn is already amazing. Ed had nothing to say about this, and even felt guilty about his wife. Many times he wanted to tell his wife Jon's real life directly, telling her that he had never betrayed their marriage. But reason prevented him from doing that. The reason why a secret is that the fewer people who know it, the safer it will be. If Catelyn started to be very kind to Jon because she learned of Jon's background, such an abnormal situation will definitely attract the attention of those who care. Caring people, yes, they are talking about those important officials in King's Landing and his good brother King Robert. Robert can't wait to kill all the blood of the Targaryen family. If he knows that Jon has taken his fiancée, his sister Lyanna and Rhaegar, the son of Targaryen, Ed is sure, Robert will be the first time. Carrying his warhammer, he ran to the north and smashed Jon to pieces with his own hands. He knew the character of his good friend Robert well, even though they hadn't seen each other for so long since the Balon Greyjoy rebellion in the Iron Islands was settled 8 years ago. Therefore, Ed did not dare to take the risk of telling his wife the truth, so he could only drink the bitter drink by himself. Thanks to the old god, although his wife Catelyn disliked Jon's illegitimate child, at least she didn't kill Jon's life. If a tragedy like many illegitimate children of noble families died inexplicably, Ed didn't know how to deal with it. After all, he had promised his sister to take care of her son before she died. Fortunately, this terrible situation that could drive him crazy did not happen, thanks again to the old god. Everyone was sitting at the dining table, and the atmosphere was very relaxed. Ed liked this kind of atmosphere. In a sense, Ed Stark was considered to be one of the few righteous, upright, and benevolent nobles in Westeros. He didn't understand, and he hated the bullying among the nobles, because as the second son, the education he received since childhood was simply the chivalry of loyalty, integrity, and honor that simply brainwashed his subordinates. Ed's older brother, the long-dead Brandon Stark, was the heir raised by his father, Duke Rickard Stark. In order to prevent other sons from competing for power with the heirs, Duke Rickard, or in other words all nobles, will focus on cultivating the noble character of non-heir sons, in order to ensure the stability and continuation of the family inheritance in the face of brothers and sisters. However, who would have thought that Duke Rickard and the heir's eldest son, Brandon, were burned together by the Mad King, Aerys Targaryen. It was in such a sudden situation that Ed Stark took over his father's title and became the Guardian of the North, the Duke of Winterfell, and the supreme ruler of the North. What he learned from an early age was the loyalty, integrity, kindness and other noble qualities of knights, and he did not have the tricks that his father personally taught to become the ruler of the North, the patriarch of the Stark family. From the tragic ending of Ed Stark's naive, pure-headed governance in King's Landing, and his head being beheaded by Joffrey, it can be seen that he is not a qualified politician, and he is completely unable to undertake the heavy responsibility of the former Prime Minister of the King's Hand. Of course, Duke Ed, who is sitting on the main seat at this time and is talking intimately with his important assistants, will not think of the tragic ending of his future. On the right side of the table, Sansa turned her head to wink at Sister Arya as she lowered her head to eat the cake on her plate, a reminder that it was time to speak. Arya swallowed the apple pie in her mouth, wiped the grease from her mouth, looked up at her father sitting in the main seat, interrupted their conversation, and said directly, "Father, I have something to ask for. Can you promise me?" Sansa raised her head and hurriedly looked at her father in the main seat. Arya, thinking that this daughter, who was giving her a headache, was going to make trouble again, Mrs. Catelyn raised her voice, looked at her daughter with a stern look in her eyes, and warned him not to mess around. When Ed heard his daughter's words, he stopped talking with Maester Luwin, and turned to look at Arya, who bravely looked up at him. This daughter, whose personality was very similar to his sister Lyanna, had an ice-like expression on her face. The serious look also melted a little. He looked at his daughter with gentle eyes, although there was still no smile on his face. "It depends on what. If you want to beg me not to let you study with Sister Mordane, then I can tell you right now, Arya, neither your mother nor I will allow this." Robb turned to his sister suspiciously, wondering what weird request she was going to make today. Bran put down the fork in his hand, his handsome and cute face was full of curiosity. "Arya, what are you going to do? Let's talk about it first. I don't want to practice swords with you." Rickon was the youngest, only 5 years old. He was sitting in a chair by himself, with a maid by his side to help feed him. Hearing his sister Arya's request to his father, he stared at Arya with curious eyes, while eating the grilled meat brought by the maid with his mouth open. Jon, sitting at the end of the left, was eating quietly, trying to be transparent at the table, because he also knew very well that Mrs. Catelyn hated him and didn't want to make her unhappy, so after all these years he is the quietest person on the table, almost a transparent person. However, his sister Arya, who is closest to him, suddenly made a request to Lord Ed, which still made him a little curious, and he couldn't help but look up at Arya. Maester Luwin, Steward Wayan Poole, Esser Roderick, and Jory Castle smiled and looked at her with gentle eyes. Miss Arya is the most popular existence in Winterfell. She is kind, cheerful, brave, and equal to others. Just like her aunt Lyanna, she is very popular in Winterfell. At this point, everyone looked at Arya, waiting to see what chaotic request she made. Arya was watched by everyone's eyes, not afraid at all. She didn't dare to look at her mother's stern eyes, but looked straight at her father. She knew that only her father would tolerate her little rebellion. Chapter 41. I've been following Sister Mordane in Schoolgirl Hong all these days. I'm really tired. I want to go out to the winter shelter market town. Arya said confidently. Too tired. Mrs. Catelyn's face was ugly. That's not what Sister Mordane told me. She told me that you are often absent from women's red classes, and you can't find anyone. Arya, should you give it to me? An explanation. It's so hard to embroider or something, I can't even hold those thin needles. Arya lowered her head, stuck her tongue out, and complained in a low voice. Hee hee. Hearing Arya's innocent words, everyone in the room couldn't help but burst into laughter. Especially Bran and Rickon laughed the loudest. Don't laugh, Arya threatened her two younger brothers, shaking her fist in embarrassment. Rickon was so frightened that he quickly covered his mouth with his hands. Bran hummed twice, saw Arya shaking his fist again, and finally didn't dare to say anything. He really couldn't beat this sister, so he had to endure it. Seeing this warm scene, Ed's mouth could not help but bend. Worried about her father's disagreement, Arya glanced at Sansa, who was still smiling, and pulled Sansa in. It's really tiring, even Sansa wants to go out with me. If you don't believe me, ask her. Sansa didn't expect Arya to pull herself in. She originally planned to ask her mother if she wanted to see the situation, but now, she had to speak. Lady Catelyn looked at her eldest daughter, who was always obedient, almost proud. Sansa, is what Arya said true? Sansa blushed and nodded. Well, I really want to go out for a walk. Just circling. Mrs. Catelyn glanced at the eldest daughter, who blushed and bowed her head silently, and then turned to the youngest daughter, who made her the most uneasy. Being stared at by her mother's stern eyes, Arya, who originally wanted to lie, could not help but weaken her momentum and said the truth. Well, it's mainly because Sansa and I want to go to the winter town, the shop of the noble man from the Far East, buy some soap. Soap. Ed frowned slightly. It was an unfamiliar term, he had never heard of it. Mrs. Catelyn's eyes were also puzzled. Cough. Chief Wei Yong, who already knew what was going on, coughed dryly, and then explained respectfully, soap is a kind of soap that can wash clothes, wash hands, face and bathe. Something with a special scent is said to be loved by nobles in the distant Eastern Empire. Everyone's eyes turned to Director Wei Yong, and listening to his description, everyone couldn't help but become curious. A few days ago, the young aristocrat Jason Easter, who is said to have crossed the endless trembling sea and came from the distant Eastern Empire, came to me to exchange silver deer for golden dragons, and then gave me 10 bars of soap. I was planning to personally try it out. I didn't expect that Jenny had brought it to the two young ladies to use. Director Wei Yong said with a smile on his face. However, my wife Bucky and I have also used it, and it's really useful. I originally planned to give it to you and your wife, Mrs. After listening to Director Wei Yong's explanation, Ed and Catelyn were finally relieved. After reassuring, Duke Ed was also a little interested in the young noble Jason East, who came from the Far East through the endless trembling sea. God knows how far. I remember hearing people talk about this foreign young noble, but I don't know much about it. Ed said casually. Yes, my lord, recently, this miraculous Lord East, almost made my ears calluses. The old coach of Roderick couldn't help complaining. The people below have been discussing recently, what a handsome, generous, benevolent, kind-hearted aristocrat, what a magical commodity, what a magical medicine that saves lives from the hands of death. In short, I heard all kinds of bizarre rumors. Well, indeed, it seems to have been heard recently that the Lord Easter bought several houses, and after they were all torn down, they are rebuilding and recruiting a lot of people to work. Jory continued his uncle's words. Is there actually such a famous person in the winter market town? Mrs. Catelyn was a little surprised. She had been praying in the church recently, and she didn't care much about the outside world. It is indeed very famous, and many of those rumors are true. Bachelor Lewin said slowly. Ed is more interested now, and all his important assistants have heard of this young man. Seeing the curiosity in the eyes of Lord Eddard, Master Lewin reached out and touched the special necklace representing the knowledge and status of the bachelor, and explained, Master Rickon's nurse Martha, some time ago her youngest daughter is seriously ill. I have seen it myself, and even the best bachelor in the city can't cure such a serious illness. However, my assistant Boris told me some time ago that he saw with his own eyes that the poor little girl was completely cured. It was the young nobleman who cured it. With that said, Maester Lewin took out a gel refill from a pocket of his bachelor's uniform, and this refill, which is also from the Lord Easter. This pen is very convenient to use. You don't need to dip the ink once to write a few words like a quill pen. This pen can write all the time until the ink in the refill runs out. Everyone's eyes couldn't help but fall on the refill in the hands of the Master Lewin. So, the rumors that the young noble has a lot of magical goods from the Far East are also true. Maester Luwin finally concluded. It's really curious, I kind of want to see him. Robb's eyes flashed with the curiosity of the young man. Bran also raised his face and listened very seriously, thinking the same as his brother Robb, I want to go too. Only Rickon was young and didn't really understand what they were saying at all, and only cared about eating for himself. It's miraculous, I mean it's a little incredible. Ed was also very curious. Such a young nobleman who just arrived in Winter City has made so many widely publicized stories in a short period of time. It was enough to show that the young man was indeed very capable. He even wanted to see the young man a little. However, Ed knew it was impossible, because he was so busy every day that he had no time at all. Father, please let me and Sansa go to the winter market town tomorrow, buy some soap from that lord's store. Arya left the seat, ran to Ed, hugged his arm, and said coquettishly, I beg you, just promise me. Shaking his arms by Arya, even the stern-faced Ed can't help but show a helpless expression. He really can't stand the simple request of this daughter, who looks very much like his dear sister and whom he also loves very much. Refuse. So, he nodded, okay, stop shaking, I promise. Ha ha ha, thank you father, I love you. Arya exclaimed happily. Ed looked at his daughter dotingly. Hearing her father's promise, Sansa's pale face flushed slightly with joy. You must bring enough guards. Mrs. Catelyn did not refuse, but made a request, Arya, you have to make sure that you are only going to buy soap from the Lord's store, and don't run around, you know. Yes, I promise. Arya immediately assured with a raised hand. Father, mother, let me accompany my sisters. Robb puffed up his chest, eager to try, I can protect them. And me, I can protect Sansa and Arya too. Bran raised a hand and shouted hastily. Seeing that her favorite son, Bran, was also going, Catelyn wanted to refuse him, but looking at Bran's handsome and cute little face and the request in her big eyes, Catelyn, like her husband, couldn't refuse at all. Jon also wants to go, but no one cares about his opinion here, so no one cares about him. He can go with Robb and the others tomorrow. Tomorrow I will send Harris, Desmond, Jakes and Poser to protect the young master and the ladies. As Ed's captain of the guard, Jory said. Ed nodded. The Winterfell market town was just outside of Winterfell city. The townspeople were all loyal to their own subjects. There was indeed no danger. 4 guards were enough. My lord, let Boris follow along. Bachelor Luwin said suddenly, I heard him say that in the shop of that lord, there is a kind of pen called gel pen, which is better than the refill, and there are other kinds of pens. Snow white and clean paper, if I want it to be true, let Boris buy it back. Well, no problem, Ed nodded, then looked at Director Wei Yong, if you're not busy tomorrow, you can go there and see if there is anything we need, and you can also give it to Kate. Lynn buy some. When Catelyn heard that her husband still remembered to buy something for her, she couldn't help feeling a little happy, and the displeasure on her face lightened slightly. Yes, my lord. Chief Wei Yong smiled and nodded. So, this dinner party, which was an hour longer than usual, finally ended with the joy of the children. In the winter market town, more than 200 people had already arrived at the construction site of Jason Lu's house early in the morning. The breakfast had not been delivered, but these simple people from the north had already started to work under the command of the masons. When Jason Lu woke up from Lena's second-floor room, the workers on the construction site had had breakfast and were working hard. Sir, Lena's voice sounded outside the door. Jason Lu got dressed and opened the door. Lena had a water basin in her hand, followed by Mccan's sister Bella. The little girl had a towel, toothbrush and toothpaste in her hands. With big brown eyes, Bling Bling blinked and looked at Jason Lu. Because I can eat well every day during this time, Bella, a thin and little blonde girl, has a pale and dull face, and her face has become smooth and ruddy. Every day she was with Lena, Martha, Susan and Venetia, and sometimes Mihal played with her. The little girl felt very happy during this time. One day, after seeing Lena serving Master Jason East to wash up in the morning, the little girl also came along. At that time, when he saw that Lena brought face wash, towel, toothbrush and toothpaste in front of him, and wanted to serve him to wash, he originally refused. However, although Lena did not dare to disobey, she still did it every day. Jason Lu was also helpless by the girl's stubbornness. In the end, he had to accept Lena's kindness. Well, it wasn't because someone was so comfortable being served that he didn't bother to go down and ran to the well to wash himself. Obviously he hired a clerk, and finally made Lena a maid. Now the maids team has grown again, and 11-year-old girl Bella has also joined in. After persuading and not going back, Jason Lu just let her go. Under the attentive service of Lena and Bella, Lord Jason East has become completely accustomed to the aristocratic lifestyle of Westeros. Well, he got used to this kind of feudal remnant very quickly. No wonder so many people fell under sugar-coated cannonballs. Such a corrupt life enjoyment is really not something that half of the people can refuse. Jason Lu said that he tried hard to refuse, but failed. Just after washing here, another little girl, Vanessa, came in with toast, a glass of hot milk, grilled chicken, and carrot and onion soup in her hands. "Sir, I bought freshly milked milk from a nearby village today. Sister Susan warmed you up." "Hee, because we bought a lot, we all got a small cup." With short black hair, although she looks ordinary, but the 15-year-old girl is very cheerful and lively, full of youthful breath. "Ha ha ha, how's it going, is it still good to drink?" Jason Lu likes Vanessa's lively character. Compared with the respectful restraints of others in front of him, he likes Venezia who dares to make a joke with him occasionally. "Sarah." Vanessa stuck out her tongue and shook her head. "It doesn't feel good, it's not as good as the juice you gave us." The juice Venetia mentioned was the orange juice and apple juice in large barrels that Jason Lu bought when he was shopping at the supermarket a few days ago. Compared with the plain green milk produced in Westeros, which has no taste, no added and no residue, it is true that the modern fruit juice with various pigments and sugars is more delicious, and Venetia and the others also prefer it. "My lord, I heard from the people in the castle that the young masters and young ladies of the Stark family in Winterfell will come to our store today." While packing up the basin and towel, Lena whispered the news she heard. "It seems that Sansa and Miss Arya like our soap very much, saying that it is comfortable and has a special fragrance after bathing." Puff. Jason Lu, who had just had a sip of milk, heard Lena's words. He couldn't help squirting the milk, his throat choked, and he couldn't help coughing. Lena handed over the towel in a panic, helped Jason Lu wipe the spilled milk, and asked worriedly, "Sir, what's the matter with you?" Jason Lu coughed and waved his hand, indicating that he was fine, and after taking a breath, he said, "You mean the lady from the Stark family took a bath with soap and felt good, and wants to come to our store to buy it today?" Lena nodded and said as a matter of course, "Yeah, we like to use something as good as soap. Washing your face, washing your hands and bathing is very easy to use." Jason Lu looked at Bella and Vanessa. "Do you also use soap to bathe?" Bella nodded her little head quickly. Venetia was enraptured. "It's really good to use. You gave us a piece of soap, my sister and I used one, and then gave the other to my parents, and they all said it was very useful." The corners of Jason Lu's mouth twitched slightly, and he laughed dryly. He decided not to mention the fact that soap can't take a bath. He also forgot before, maybe he didn't explain the difference between soap and soap with Lena and the others. After all, they are all white, and they don't know modern characters, so it's normal for them to be confused. Well, bathing with soap doesn't seem like a big deal in Westeros' backward and bad sanitation. Just use it, just replace it with soap later. After eating quickly and drinking this cup of pure green milk produced in Westeros, Jason Lu walked out of Lena's house, ready to inspect the construction progress of the house. The foundations have been dug up, and the excavated soil has been transported to the site and piled up. Stones for building houses are also being continuously shipped from all directions. Anyway, there are a lot of stones in the northern wilderness, and no money is needed. Just as Jason Lu made a satisfied tour of the construction site, 5 of his guards, the 3 Barlow brothers, Mccan and Dick, came over with flushed faces. It turned out that they were disliked by the Masons, and the other helpers knew that they were the guards of Lord Jason East, and did not dare to ask them to help. Therefore, the 5 had no more work to do, so they had to come to the adults and listen to his arrangements. Jason Lu looked at the construction site that was almost full of more than 200 people, and felt that there was no shortage of 5 people from Mccan. So, When he was idle, he decided to let the 5 guard boys pick up weapons and start practicing. After finding an open space, Barlow, Baron, Bud, Mccan, and Dick all put on stab-proof suits, with iron swords in their hands, and stood there not knowing how to start. Dick was the tallest and strongest, but fortunately his stab-proof suit was the largest. After putting it on, he looked more like a black bear standing upright. Jason Lu touched his chin with one hand, and didn't know where to start practicing swordsmanship. After all, he didn't know either. After staring for a while with the 5 subordinates, a male voice with a Drake voice came from one side. If they haven't learned swordsmanship, they should start from the most basic steps and sword-holding posture. Jason Lu turned his head to look over, and saw a handsome boy with black hair, gray eyes, and a height of less than 1.7 meters. His hand was on the hilt of a sword on his waist. His feet were wearing moccasins, and he was standing not far away, watching them. That's what he just said. Jason Lu looked at the handsome boy suspiciously, searched his memory, and found that he didn't know him at all. Master Jon. At this moment, Dick's simple and honest voice sounded, greeting the boy opposite. Jon. Is it? Jason Lu could not help staring, carefully looked across the big boys. The boy should be the Jon Snow. Looks very handsome after all, inherited from the father Rhaega, Targaryen, and beautiful mother Lyanna, Stark gene, compared to the drama actor, younger and more handsome. At this time, Jon should be about 15 years old when he joined the Vigil people, that is 16 years old adult. Ah, the distance seemed right to travel far to start the story. Jason Lu is being looked lost in thought. Jon, Dick responded. Dick, hello, Young nodded toward Dick, handsome face, deliberately tight dress out of a serious, mature, very upset tone. Did not I told you many times yet? I was not a young master. Quote. When it comes to master word, handsome boy's face flashed a haze. It seems Jon Dick an understanding, but also normal, identity is very low differentiable, and Dick can play this tavern owner's son together. It is not surprising. Speaking, Jon survivors of this tragedy really, because from an early age the identity of the people around illegitimate child pointing, suffered supercilious. He grew up, and was hoodwinked into the Night Watchman, only to find cheated after entering the Night Watchman, which is what this Full Honor Legion is. Clearly criminal scum concentration camp. Night Watch Commander Mormont finally get the help, and good friend Sean Mew Wire, Tully and other partners support in Mormont's death. It became a Night Watchman Commander-in-Chief. But because he had to put the Great Wall into the savage, brutal Black Brothers' betrayal, by the Wan Jian wearing body, pain of tragic death. After being Red Witch Melisandre magic with the resurrection, and the dragon and mother and aunt and lover, fighting side by side tragic victory Ghoul army, to invade because Monarch's city, enraged enemy, the dragon mother burning the city, the heart of his so-called justice mischief, Tyrion has been fooled, an octopusy spider actually killed the dragon mother. Finally, love is gone, the kingdom did not honor, but also saddled with the stigma of regicide go back to cold again, the Great Wall, the remaining years alone. Jason Lu does not know when the last TV series, Jon been fooled with personally killed his only family and loved ones, a man burdened with dishonor, and was tortured with guilt, standing alone on the Great Wall. I will recall his miserable life, and feel remorse. At least, Jason Lu after watching the TV version of the ending, inside there are numerous grass nests spewing out. Jon Mencken do such a person must not be leaders, because he only knows the knights of noble character, but not the popular dark, do not be Machiavellian machine change. This head simple people, it touches Jason Lu can safely associate with him. Of course, the premise is to pit him of being anti this pig teammates. Eyes staring at Jon, Jason Lu short time to think a lot. Jason Lu was staring at a long, cold and even the handsome face, seeking to imitate the Duke of Ed mounted majestic Jon, cannot help but stare was a bit scared of. He uncomfortably small margin twisted body, hesitated, then walked directly towards the side. The lead began, you are the most recent fame spread throughout the winter to avoid the town of Eastbourne Jason adults, right? Hello, Eastbourne big, I Jon Snow. Quote. Jason Lu also reflect over this time, the boy himself staring at people stared too long. So he put away the hot eyes, face gentle smile, nod toward Jon. Hello, Jon, I heard about you, they say you are Ed. Illegitimate son of the Duke of Stark. Jason Liu made a deep impression on Jon when he decided to meet at the first store. How was he impressed? Is there anything more profound than the first meeting, directly exposing the other party's old bottom, and pouring salt on the wound? Absolutely not. I didn't see it. After hearing Jason Liu say the word, illegitimate child, so directly, Jon's handsome face changed slightly, instantly darkened, and a pair of gray eyes burned with anger. This is still well trained, otherwise Jason Liu is worried that the boy will be so angry that he will directly pull out the sword from his waist and cut himself. By directly stating the identity of the other party's illegitimate child, Jason Liu is of course not to provoke the other party, but to make friends with the other party. Of course, making friends should also pay attention to a strategy. After all, it is the first time that the two meet, and it is generally not easy to establish a deep friendship. In a word, the most affectionate one cannot be retained, and only the routine wins the hearts of the people. When dealing with young and sensitive big boys like Jon, you can't just follow them, you have to create violent mood swings, and then smooth them out with your own hands. In this way, the two will quickly get closer to each other, and even make the other person feel that you and him have this common feeling. Well, of course, the emotions mentioned here only refer to human emotions, which are completely different from the dirty emotions between men and women. I'm sorry, I just listened to what others said. If I offended you, I apologize to you. Jason Liu pretended to be unintentional just now, with a sincere apology on his face. Well, it was the first time he discovered that he actually had such good acting skills. Look, Jon's originally dark face turned cloudy after he apologized. After all, Jon has been tried and tested for a long time. After all, many people around him have pointed at him as an illegitimate child since he was a child. Jason Liu did this, and apologized promptly and sincerely, which was a rare good attitude for Jon. Therefore, although Jon is very uncomfortable, he is not really angry. On the contrary, from the conversation in front of this young and handsome nobleman who was said to be from the Far East, he felt a rare respect. Yes, it is respect. As an illegitimate child, living under the eaves of Winterfell City, and being hated and even hated by the hostess of Winterfell City, the servants of Winterfell City are of course arrogant, and they are more contemptuous, mocking, and have no respect at all. The respect from Jason Liu made the teenager feel a little good about him all of a sudden. Jason Liu observes words and expressions, although he is not very good at it, but the opposite is just a big boy who is not good at hiding his likes and dislikes. He finds that Jon's face is soothed, and even his eyes become softer. He knows that his apology just now has won the other party's understanding. He waved his hand and made Dick Mccan and the other 5 go backwards. Jason Liu walked forward to Jon and said sincerely, "Jon, you know. Actually, you don't have to feel inferior because of your identity." Quote. Jon's face changed slightly, but his face was still tense, and he continued to listen to Jason Liu. "In my hometown of Senna Empire, people don't care about your origin at all, because it is predestined by God, but you can rely on your own efforts, be brave and fight hard, and achieve achievements that make everyone amazed by you." Quote. Then, all the people who laughed at your background in the past will be very flattering and humble in awe of you to please you. At that time, your humble background will not only not affect your achievements, but will make everyone admire you even more. Do you know why? Looking at the teenager who was clearly attracted by his words, Jason Liu asked with a smile. Jon opened his eyes wide and stared at Jason Liu closely. Facing the sudden question, Jon, who was caught off guard, subconsciously shook his head. Because you have achieved great achievements that even those with noble backgrounds and countless family resources could not achieve. Jason Liu said in a passionate and infectious tone, people's nature is to worship the strong. You have proved that they are far stronger than them, so they will worship you and respect you. After listening to this, the boy's face flushed with excitement, and his eyes were full of longing. He was obviously stimulated by Jason Liu's deceitful and provocative words to the point of, "Hi." Seeing Jon's unconcealed excited expression, Jason Liu laughed secretly in his heart. Chicken soup for the soul is indeed poisonous, and simple teenagers who have never been poisoned by this thing before are easily fooled. The corners of Jason Liu's mouth twitched slightly, his smile was more gentle, his eyes were more sincere, and he looked at the teenager. "So, Jon, tell me, you will not be as good as those who only know how to hang around in the women's branch, and dress up like a feather every day with grease and powder. The noble children of the gorgeous. No, I'm better than them. Jon replied immediately, as if to prove that what he said was true. He raised his head, and his tone was full of pride. Even Robb can't beat me in swordsmanship, although he is a few months older than me. Well, this young man was really fascinated by his own chicken soup. He even said what was more powerful than Robb, the heir of Winterfell and his elder brother. It was obvious that he regarded him as his own. Sure enough, as soon as these words were blurted out, Jon's face changed. He also knew that he was too rash just now. If Robb and Mrs. Catelyn listened to these words, he would not dare to imagine that the lady should hate him again. To what extent? Thinking of this, Jon couldn't help but turn pale. It can be seen that the boy is a little scared, which also proves that the words just now are his true words. After all, compared to the orthodox heir of Winterfell, Robb, who is loved and respected by everyone. No matter how hard he tried in Winterfell, he was an illegitimate Jon who was scorned by others, and it was not surprising that a teenager was jealous. Although, Robb was also good to him, but only good. The condescending and commanding tone that Robb unwittingly displayed when they were usually together still caught Jon's heart. Feeling the boy's unease, Jason Lu immediately spoke to reassure him. Look, this is the evidence. You are stronger than Robb, this is a fact, it will not disappear because of the gap between your identities. So, a person's origin does not mean anything. As long as he works hard, he will surely achieve great things. Having said that, Jason Lu looked at Jon expectantly and encouraged. Jon, do you think you can keep working hard and achieve a career that will make everyone truly respect and worship you from the bottom of your heart? After being dispelled by Jason Lu, Jon nodded his head excitedly and replied firmly, I can keep working hard, and then make a great cause that everyone will recognize me. That's right. I'm looking forward to that day. I see in you the precious unwavering willpower that you will succeed. Jon, really, I'm absolutely sure. Jason Lu's tone was full of sincere emotion, as if all this said has been realized. This is the first time that Jon has been so sincere in his childhood to encourage him and look up to him. This makes the young man who has suffered from human affection very grateful. Thank you, Lord Jason Easter. I will definitely redouble my efforts to make a difference. The business is coming. Jason Lu reached out and patted Jon's shoulder lightly, smiled and said, yes, I believe it. Also, I just happened to have some trouble here, and you just said that you are very good at swordsmanship, and you must be able to do it every day. Take some time and help me train my 5 rookie guards. You know, they haven't even held a sword before, and it takes a lot of training to make them good fighters. How about it, Jon, can you help me with this? Jason Lu took the opportunity to make this request, which can be regarded as a further deepening of the relationship between the two. After listening to Jason Lu's request, Jon was extremely surprised, and even couldn't believe it. Master East, you want me to teach your guards swordsmanship? How is this possible? I'm just learning from Roderick's instructor. No, I must be bad at teaching. No, Jon, you can do it. How could Jason Lu make him refuse? So, he put his hands on his shoulders and said seriously, just give them the most basic swordsmanship, which is the same as what you learned from the Roderick instructor. Just teach them. After all, I am a foreigner. Not long after arriving in Westeros, I couldn't find a swordsman instructor who could teach the 5 of them. So, Jon, please don't reject me, okay? I really think of you as a friend. Don't you think I don't deserve to be your friend? Of course not, I'm very happy to be friends with you, but I'm worried that I really can't teach well. Jon was still young, and was forced to ask by Jason Lu with a single sentence. He hurriedly shook his head, expressing himself. I want to be friends with him, but I'm just afraid that I won't teach him well. No problem, Mccan and the other 5 have no basic knowledge at all, you are much better than them. You help me teach them first, and when I find a good swordsmanship instructor, let them learn from the instructor. Why? Sample. Jason Lu looked at him expectantly. Will you promise to help me? Finally, the thin-skinned boy who couldn't save his face, who was the opponent of a mature adult like Jason Lu, quickly became the swordsmanship instructor of Mccan and the others. Dizzy. Mccan, Dick, Barlow, Baron, Bud, all 5 of you here. After finishing Jon, Jason Liu waved his 5 subordinates over and pushed them directly to Jon. Listen, you will learn swordsmanship from Jon in the future. He will be your future swordsman instructor. You must learn from Jon seriously, got it? Is it? If Jon tells me that any of you are not serious, then I'm going to fire him, I'm not kidding. Yes, my lord. The 5 of them hurriedly agreed, although it was unclear how the illegitimate son of the Duke of Winterfell had become their swordsman teacher in a short while, but of course they did not dare to be careless about Jason's warning, and no one thought about it. Lose the job of a guard with such a high salary and such a good treatment under Lord Jason. So, the 5 of them simply saluted Jon respectfully, Teacher Jon. He has never been saluted so respectfully before. Jon looked embarrassed and waved his hands in a panic. No, you're welcome, I'm just temporarily teaching you the most basic swordsmanship. Jon, it doesn't matter, they will all listen to you in the future. How Coach Roderick taught you, you can teach them 5, the stricter the better. Jason Liu encouraged him. Yes, Lord Jason, I will definitely teach them what I have learned. Jon promised excitedly. Then, if you have time today, you can start today. Jason Liu smiled. I've been fine all day today, so I can start now. Jon feels excited and fresh, and can't wait to start now. After all, this feeling of being valued, needed, and respected is really great. Of course, this couldn't be better. Jason Liu didn't expect Jon to be so enthusiastic, so he nodded and smiled and let them start directly in the open space next to him. Jon pulled out his saber and walked with the 5 to the open space over there, and began to seriously teach the 5 of Mccan. Jason Liu looked at Jon, who had a stern face and a serious face to teach the 5, stood by with a smile and watched for a while, and then he didn't want to watch anymore. Because Dick, Mccan, Barlow, Baron and Bud had a poor foundation, they were beaten and scolded by the newly appointed Coach Jon. After saying hello to them, Jason Liu went back to the store, leaving the Mccans 5 who were trained by Jon to be bloody. Not long after returning to the store downstairs at Lena's house, Rob walked in from outside with his younger brothers and sisters, the manager Wei Yong, and 4 Winterfell guards. Director Wei Yong, you are welcome. Seeing Director Wei Yong walking in with several young handsome men and beautiful women, Jason Liu immediately understood that what Lena said this morning seemed to be true. Hello, Mr. Jason East. Director Wei Yong nodded to Jason Liu, and then began to introduce the young masters and ladies of the Stark family around him. This is the Guardian of the North, the eldest son and heir of the Duke of Winterfell, Master Robb. Robb Stark, who was introduced, is a little taller than Jon, and looks quite strong. He has slightly curly black hair, gray eyes, and a high nose bridge. His face is not as handsome as Jon's, but his temperament is extremely outstanding. As expected of the eldest son and heir of the Stark family. Hello, Mr. Jason East. Robb greeted politely. Jason Liu smiled back, Master Robb, good day. Just call me Robb, I like the kind words of friends. Robb's smile was gentle, and what he said made people feel comfortable, and he really received a good aristocratic education. You can also call me Jason. It's my honor to be friends with you, Robb. Jason Liu also responded appropriately. After all, his current status is a great noble from the Far East, and his etiquette must not be ignored. Compare. Director Wei Yong continued to introduce, this is Miss Sansa, the eldest daughter of Lord Eddard. Your beauty is impressive, especially your long red hair that's as smooth as satin. Jason Liu has also read a lot of Western-themed online novels, and he can say a few words of Western-style praise. Moreover, Sansa, who is only about 13 years old now, is indeed very beautiful. When she grows up, she will definitely be a great beauty who will bring disaster to the country and the people. Sure enough, hearing Jason Liu's sincere compliment, Sansa couldn't help but smile, with a shy smile on her fair and delicate face, and thanked Jason Liu. Thank you for your compliment, Mr. Jason, your handsome appearance is equally impressive. Deep impression. Jason Liu just smiled and was a little surprised, is he really handsome? After all, it's not easy for Sansa, who is a Yango, to praise her. This is Miss Arya, the second daughter of Lord Eddard. Director Wei Yong continued to introduce. Arya has black hair, not as beautiful as her sister Sansa's long burgundy hair, and her face is not as delicate as her sister's, but she has a heroic spirit. Arya rolled her gray eyes and looked Jason Liu up and down, are you the nobleman from a foreign country who has been talked about the most recently? Arya, Robb, the older brother, glared at his younger sister. After all, it was the first time the two parties met outside. Arya's behavior was really a courtesy, and Robb didn't want to leave the impression that the Stark family was uneducated. Robb glared at him with warning eyes, and Arya also realized that her behavior just now was too rude. Although she was impatient with these cumbersome etiquette, she was born in a noble family after all, and she knew how to do it instinctively. So, Arya stood up straight and greeted again, "Welcome to the north, Lord Jason East, and welcome you to visit Winterfell if you have time." Jason Lu smiled and nodded, "Thank you for your invitation, Miss Arya. When I'm ready, I'll definitely go back to Winterfell to visit Lord Eddard and Lady Catelyn." In the end, Director Vian introduced Brandon Stark, the second son of Lord Eddard. "You can call me Bran, my lord, my father and mother, Robb, Sansa, Arya, that's what they call me. He's not even 9 years old this year, but he is handsome and cute, and he will definitely be a handsome guy in the future," Bran said with a small grown-up kiss. "Of course, it's nice to meet you, Bran." Jason Lu smiled and praised the little boy who was in the same miserable situation. "It's the first time I've seen such a handsome and lovely boy." Bran was praised, but he didn't have a special reaction. After all, he was handsome and cute, and the whole Winterfell knew that he heard such praise a lot. Robb, Sansa and the others were very happy after hearing this. After all, Bran was the most favored child in their family, not even little Rickon. Alas, sure enough, he looks handsome and cute, and he is really popular everywhere. Poor little Rickon, he is obviously the youngest and most deserving of everyone's favor. But who made Rickon not as good looking as his brother Bran? Hetui, these face-seeking societies. After introducing the young masters and young ladies of the Stark family, Director Wei Yong introduced Boris, the assistant of Maester Luwin, his daughter, Jenny, who is also Miss Sansa's maid, and Harris, who was in the bodyguard of Lord Eddard. After the ceremonial greeting was completed, Jason Lu asked Lena, Susan and the others to move chairs, and asked the young masters and ladies of the Stark family to sit down at a table in the house. Vanessa and Bella brought trays of bright and plump apples, pears, grapes, toffee, and biscuits to the table. These were bought by Jason Lu from Hyundai to eat as a snack. Lena, Vanessa, Bella, and Mihal liked to eat these. Even Robb, Sansa, Arya, and Bran were a little surprised to see such bright red and plump apples. You must know that these big and red fine apples are the fruits that have been cultivated for hundreds of years in modern times. It's not the kind of Westeros that is relatively small at all, because it takes a long time to transport apples that are picked before they are ripe, so most of them are green and taste bad. In addition to the apples, the pears are golden and shiny, the grapes are purplish red and crystal clear, and those little cookies are cute and delicate in shape, far beyond the desserts of Westeros. Bran was quickly attracted to the kind of bear biscuits. When Jason Lu sat down and invited everyone to taste it, Bran immediately grabbed a bear biscuits and ate the cookie crumbs on the corners of his mouth, his face very happy. Robb was eating the crystal and sweet grapes, and nodded secretly in his heart. It seems that this Lord Jason East is as rumored, definitely a great noble from the Far East. Otherwise, ordinary aristocrats can't afford such a thing. At least, the Stark family, the supreme rulers of the North, have never eaten such fresh and plump fruits and such fragrant biscuits. You must know that because the traffic conditions are extremely poor and the transportation time is long, the cost of ensuring the freshness of the fruit is extremely high, and few noble families in the North are so extravagant. Holding a big red apple in his hand, the juice splashed, and Maester Luwin's assistant Boris wiped his mouth with his wide sleeve, and couldn't wait to ask, "Lord East, how did you treat little Lillian?" "The disease. I also saw it with my own eyes at the time. Little Lillian was very ill, and with Westeros' medical skills, it couldn't be cured at all. Little Lillian was infected by bacteria, which caused her body to heat up, and eventually caused a very serious inflammation. It happened that I brought it from my hometown, the most effective medicine for treating inflammation, so I can cure little Lillian's disease. In fact, I myself do not what kind of medical skills do you know, but I just brought medicine from my hometown." Jason Lu immediately explained that he didn't want to be regarded as a doctor with superb medical skills. After all, he didn't understand medicine at all, so he could only give medicine by chance. Therefore, if someone came to him for treatment in the future, he would only give medicine and when a drug dealer, not a doctor. The medicine is given to you, but there is no guarantee that it will cure the disease. It is up to you to eat or not. If something goes wrong, don't hold me responsible. Well, yes, I'm a drug dealer. Don't come to me if you have a problem. Boris is very curious about the medicine that can cure little Lillian, and presumably his master, Maester Luwin, is also very curious. Maesters usually not only help the lord to govern the territory, but also study some eccentric things. Medicine is also a subject that bachelors must master. After all, they also serve as doctors of the lord's family. In response, Jason Lu took out a bottle of penicillin, a bottle of sterile water for injection, and a syringe. I briefly explained the process of treating little Lillian at that time. Rob and the others couldn't help but exclaimed in disbelief. It was the first time they heard that such a terrifying needle was put into the flesh to inject medicine, this treatment. Well, Boris also heard it for the first time. Originally, he wanted to continue to have an in-depth exchange with Jason Lu about the medicine of Westeros and the Xena Empire, but was interrupted by the impatient Arya. Master Jason, I want to buy soap for bathing, do you still have it here? Arya blinked and looked at him expectantly. Sansa and Jenny had the same eagerness in their eyes. Cough, cough, of course. Thinking of the fact that these two ladies from the top noble families in Westeros actually used the soap that was mainly used for washing clothes, Jason Lu's mouth twitched slightly, but the smile still remained on his face. Actually, this time I also brought from my hometown, better soap than soap for hand washing, face and bathing. Soap. Arya didn't understand, repeating words that seemed as unfamiliar as soap. Sansa couldn't help but said, chanting the weird word soap, you mean this fragrant, soap is better than soap. Yes, Jason Lu nodded, then ordered Lena to bring a few boxes of soap from the counter. Martha put the sleeping little Lillian back on the bed, and then helped Vanessa to draw a few basins of water and bring it over. The basin is plastic and bought by Jason Lu from Hyundai. Because he is really not used to using wooden basins, every time he washes his face, a lot of sawdust falls off. So, Jason Lu directly bought more than 10 plastic pots of various colors, which were light and clean, which Lena and the others liked very much. Sansa and Arya couldn't wait to unpack the soap's carton and took out the soap, which was as white as soap. Well, it smells so good, Jenny said in surprise. Arya shrugged her nose and took a deep breath of the fragrance, her face a little intoxicated. No wonder Mr. Jason said that soap is better than soap, and the scent is much stronger than soap. It's so fragrant, this one smells like roses. Sansa happily held a bar of soap and couldn't put it down. Rose scent. Jason Lu secretly pouted, 50 cents a piece of soap, there is a ghostly rose fragrance. God knows how many industrial essences are added to the soap factory boss Ma and the others. The aroma is really strong. It's more fragrant than a certain brand name soap he bought at the mall for 8 yuan a box. Mine smells like lily. Arya shouted happily, holding the soap in her hand. Jenny sniffed the soap in her hand carefully, and vowed, this one must have the scent of wild chrysanthemum. Last year, I saw someone selling wild chrysanthemum in Bidong Market Town, and that's what it smells like. Bran fiddled with the soap in his hand and said without looking up, then my piece must be scented with roses. I saw roses when I climbed over the wall next to the ruined tower. Rob held the soap close to his nose in confusion, sniffed it, and then said somewhat uncertainly, why do I think it smells like jasmine? Having said that, Rob looked at Jason Lu and asked in surprise, Master Jason, do these soaps have many different scents? My mother likes the tulips grown in Riverrun's garden the most. I wonder if you have any tulips here, scented soap. Hearing these wolf cubs from the Stark family sip roses, lilies, roses, etc., Jason Lu was also confused and couldn't help roaring in his heart. Isn't it just a 5 cents piece of soap? Can any of you tell me how you can smell so many floral scents? It's just that of course he couldn't ask such a rude question. So, I had to remain mysterious, smiled, and replied calmly, this soap is from my hometown, with dozens of flowers, industrial flavors selected, and after 9081 processes machine stirring using extremely advanced technology, semi-automation, the high-quality soap 5 cents a piece is made. No matter what else, the first is a blind chicken blowing, and the soap is blown into a high-end luxury that is popular among thousands of girls and attracts countless nobles to compete. The rank and status are not enough. In Westeros's words, the nobles who do not have enough titles are nobles, can't afford it at all. In a word, expensive. Use 2 words, thief good. The biggest advantage, very fragrant. Can it be delicious? After all, there are so many flavors in it. Thinking of such a fragrant soap with so many fragrances in it, Jason Lu was a little worried that there would be no problem. After all, this thing is used on the skin of noble girls and young women, so don't have any problems. No, when you return to Hyundai next time, you must call the boss Ma to re-emphasize the importance of quality. It must not be harmful to the human body. Dozens of kinds of flowers. That means there are also tulip scents. Rob couldn't help being very happy when he heard that so many kinds of flowers were added, and asked quickly. The smile on Jason Lu's face froze slightly, and then returned to normal in an instant. Tulips, this, that, hee, Rob, you know, like the specific affairs of the workers during the production process, I am impossible to ask. Hearing Jason Lu's explanation, Rob was stunned and nodded again and again. Well, yes, a great noble like you must be busy with things every day like my father, how could he have time to care about this? What a little thing. Call. You understand just fine. Jason Lu couldn't help but secretly let out a sigh of relief. Rob was a good brainer. Here Jason Lu has dealt with Rob's question, and next to Sansa, Arya and Jenny have already started to wash their hands with soap in the sink. After washing it, it was really fragrant, much more fragrant than soap, which made several girls very happy. Girls, don't you just like this kind of fragrant stuff? What? You said that many girls like stinky tofu, and stinky tofu stinks like shit. Generally speaking, they are all single dogs like him. Live alone. Does stinky tofu stink? Not smelly at all. They just smell more special. Vomit. Even if you vomit, it's still fragrant. Hey, what's painted in this blue pot? It's black and white, like a Mormont bear. Bran chewed a cookie in his mouth and pointed to an animal pattern on the bottom of a blue plastic pot, surprised shouted. Jason Lu turned his head and glanced at the basin. Oh, it's really a bear, or a bear sitting in prison. This is a special animal from my hometown. It has round ears, black and white on its body, simple, honest and cute. It is a very popular animal, the panda. Jason Lu explained to Bran. Arya, Sansa, Rob, Jenny, they glanced into the basin and then stopped paying attention. Panda. Bran tilted his little head, his handsome and cute face was full of doubts, raised his little head, stared at Jason Lu with big eyes, and asked, then is it a panda or a cat? Jason Lu is more patient with children, and replied with a smile, of course it's a bear. Since it's a bear, why does it have a cat in its name? Bran said seriously, I think it looks more like a cat. There is a black and white cat in Winterfell, very similar to it. Panda is a bear, why is there a cat in its name? Jason Lu thought about it subconsciously, and then he found himself stumped by this question too. Just wanted to say that this name was given by the ancients a long time ago. I don't know why there is a cat in the bear's name. However, seeing Bran, who had ignored him, turned his head and ran to the other side of the table to see Director Wei Yong and Boris. Under the guidance of Lena, Bran, who tried gel pens and A4 paper, Jason Lu shook his head with a wry smile. What is the real difference between myself and a little brat? Going to Director Wei Yong, seeing that Rob was also very interested in gel pens and A4 paper at this time, he personally took a pen and wrote on a piece of A4 paper. Rob, what do you think? Jason Lu asked as he watched Rob quickly write a long string of words on the white paper. Rob stopped writing, picked up the gel pen and looked at it. His face was very pleasantly surprised. Very easy to use pen. The pen quill is comfortable to hold. The writing speed is faster and more convenient. Really, I don't know how to describe it. It is very useful. This kind of pen is used by almost everyone in our place because it is convenient for writing. After the ink in the refill is used up, you can continue to use it with a new refill. It is very convenient to replace. Jason Lu once again talked about the advantages of gel pen writing, not loose ink, clear handwriting, etc. Rob, Director Wei-yong and Boris nodded repeatedly, looking very satisfied. Over there, Sansa, Arya and Jenny also tried the soap, and at this time they also came over and picked up the gel pen to write. Wow, this pen is so easy to use, I never knew I could write so fast. Arya shouted happily, Rob, let's buy some of these pens for my father later, he will definitely like. Of course, don't worry, I've already thought of it. Rob put his hand on his sister's shoulder and patted her hair dotingly. I want it too, I want it too. Bran waved the pen in his hand, then picked up the white paper on the table with his left hand, and this white paper is much cleaner than stinky parchment. Only then did Rob and the others notice A4 paper and found that this paper is indeed more suitable for writing than parchment. If the parchment is left for a long time, it will always have a rancid smell. The paper, which looks smooth and white, should not stink. Satisfied with Jason Lu's soaps, gel pens, refills and A4 paper, manager Wei-yong directly purchased a large sum for Winterfell. 100 bars of soap, 1 silver deer each. 500 soap bars, 50 copper stars each. 100 gel pens, 1 silver deer each. 1,000 refills, 50 bronze stars each. 2,000 sheets of A4 paper, each with 5 bronze stars. A total of 1050 silver deer. Director Wei-yong took out 10 golden dragons and 50 silver deer from the purse and paid them to Jason Lu. Jason Lu took the money and asked Lena, Martha, and Susan to find a large cardboard box and put all the things bought in Winterfell into it. The 2 Winterfell guards carried them out of the store, and together with General Manager Wei-yong and Boris, sent them back to Winterfell first. The things were bought, and Rob and the others sat in the store for a while, preparing to leave. Jason Lu sent these big clients out the door. Dang dang. There was the sound of iron swords hitting in the open space not far away, and Rob and the others looked over there suspiciously. Jon. Arya held a big apple in her hand. Seeing Jon, who was competing with a tall and strong boy, she could not help but scream in surprise, and then ran towards the other side, shouting as she ran, Hey Jon, why are you here? Arya, we're going back, anxious to go back to Winterfell to get her own soap, ready to use when taking a shower at night. Sansa doesn't want to wander around in the narrow streets of the dirty and smelly winter town market town. Seeing Arya run away suddenly, Sansa shouted in disgust. However, Arya ignored her and ran to Jon's side. Seeing the illegitimate brother competing with others, Sansa frowned slightly. Compared with Arya, he didn't mind Jon's illegitimate status at all, and was willing to call him Brother Jon. Sansa had never been very close to this illegitimate brother. Perhaps because of her mother's influence, Sansa generally has little contact with Jon. Jon is competing with someone, let's go and see. Rob was curious, so he followed Arya and walked over. Bran followed suit. Only Sansa, after hesitating for a while, still did not walk over, but returned to Winterfell with Jenny first. She is not interested in boys' swords, weapons, or anything. Sister Mordain said that as long as the young lady of the noble family learns well, takes good care of her husband after marriage, and gives birth to a few children, it will be fine. Dangerous things like swords belong to men, and a good lady from a noble family should not touch such dangerous things. So, Arya is the kind of disobedient lady who always likes to dance with Rob, Jon and Bran, and they are too unladylike. Seeing that Sansa chose to return to Winterfell, Rob was not surprised, and ordered Desmond to escort Sansa and Jenny back, and then walked towards Jon himself. Harris Moran put his hand on the hilt of the sword and followed closely beside the young master of Winterfell. Seeing that the wolf cubs from Stark's family didn't leave, but instead walked towards Jon and his guard's sword training, Jason Lu followed. Bang! The sword in Dick's hand was easily knocked out by Jon, and the match was over. Nice job, Jon. Arya shouted with joy when she saw Jon winning. Your swordsmanship has improved again, Jon, you can teach me more in the future, and I want to be as good as you. Arya. Jon was not surprised that Arya, Rob and the others appeared, because he knew before that they were coming here to buy things. Jon, why do you remember that you are competing with people here? Rob glanced at the 5 dicks standing cautiously across from him. From the competition just now, he could easily see that these 5 people were all novices, not even novices, far worse than Jon. Jon's face flushed slightly, and he didn't know how to explain that he had actually become the swordsmanship instructor for Lord Jason's guards. If you tell Robb that he is a swordsman instructor, this guy will laugh like crazy. Seeing the embarrassment on Jon's face, Jason Lu explained in a timely manner, Robb, you know, I just arrived in Westeros and recruited 5 of their guards. I originally wanted to find a swordsman instructor to teach them, but I haven't found it yet. I met Jon by chance today. I saw that he is very good at swordsmanship, so I asked him to teach me the basics of swordsmanship for my bodyguards. Having said that, Jason Lu took a look and looked at the 5 people who seemed to have suffered a lot. He couldn't help laughing and said, haha, it looks like they practiced well today. Hearing Jason Lu's laughter, Jon glanced at the disgraced 5 people who had been trained by him and suffered a lot, and couldn't help laughing. Jon, it seems that you and Mr. Jason get along very well. He actually dares to hand over his guards to you for training. Haha, Robb smiled, but he felt that Mr. Jason was really messed up. Come on, I actually found Jon, a half-assed swordsman, to teach his guards swordsmanship. Jon felt a little uncomfortable listening to Robb's laughter, and the smile on his face couldn't help but fade. Arya didn't feel anything. She surrounded Jon and said excitedly, Jon, let me join in, okay. Find me a wooden sword and let me train with you. Jon looked at Arya, who was very close to him and the best sister in the Stark family, rubbed her black hair dotingly, and said with a smile, don't even think about it. If you don't want to be killed by Sister Mordine, if you catch it and lock it in your own room, let's learn to embroider with Sansa honestly. I don't want to learn any embroidery. Speaking of Sister Mordine, Arya's head suddenly became big. The needle is too thin, I can't hold it, and I can't embroider well. Sansa and Jenny are all laughing at me. I don't want to learn to embroider, can you teach me to practice swords? Good, Jon. Don't make trouble, Arya, you know that your mother will never agree to let you practice swords. Robb took out the majesty of his brother and glared at his sister, let's go, we should go back. Arya was reluctant, but could not resist her serious brother, so she walked back to Robb with a displeased face. Lord Jason, then, let's say goodbye first. Robb politely said goodbye to Jason Lu and looked at Jon again, are you going with us, Jon? Jon shook his head, I'll go back later. Robb, you guys go first. Robb nodded and didn't care, then returned to Winterfell with his younger siblings. Compared to climbing the wall, climbing the broken tower to feed the crows, and sitting on the roof overlooking the wilderness in the distance, Bran has long been bored. Hearing Robb say go back, he immediately followed. Well, he was still carrying a big bag of bear biscuits from Jason Lu, and he was going to take it back to his brother Rickon to try. Watching Robb and the others leave, Jason Lu glanced at the 5 dicks who were all dirty, and announced the end of this morning's training, and asked them to go back to fetch water, take a shower, change into clean clothes, and resume training in the afternoon. Then, Jason Lu invited Jon to have lunch with them. Jon was a little embarrassed and wanted to decline the invitation. Don't say no, Jon. Of course Jason Lu wouldn't just let Jon go. Compared with the 5 illiterates under his command, Jason Lu wanted to bring Jon into his subordinates and use Jon's ability to be a good man. A right-hand man is more than enough. Being by his side as a subordinate, and even giving Jon a knighthood in the future, is much better than being fooled into joining the Night's Watch. At least, because of his appearance, Jon's tragic fate has been slightly changed. As for whether it can be changed, Jason Lu doesn't know, let's just walk and see. He couldn't refuse the invitation of the noble man who was already a friend of him. Jon was really touched that Jason Lu didn't dislike his illegitimate status as an illegitimate child, and that he valued and respected himself so much. It's just that he is not good at expressing his gratitude to the Lord East in words, so he can only secretly decide that he must give the skills he learned from Coach Roderick to the guards of Lord Jason without reservation. This is worthy of Master Jason being so kind, respectful and equal to himself. For lunch, Jason Lu told Lena that they make a very rich meal, including toasted bread, roasted venison, which the deer bought from the winter market town hunter, roasted chicken, roasted onions, and diced carrot soup. There are also fried pork, fried chicken, fried venison, fried eggs made with modern methods. Apple pie, rock sugar Sydney soup, no rock sugar, but white sugar Jason Lu bought a lot. A table full. At Jason Lu's request, he sat at the head of the long table, with Jon first on the left, Mccan next to Jon, then Dick, Barlow, Baron, and Bud. First on the right is Lena, followed by Martha, Mihal, Susan, Vanessa, Bella. It was an Easter family dinner. As for Old Rhodes, as well as the three Barlow brothers and Susan and their parents, they were busy cooking for the workers in Old Rhodes Tavern, and they also followed the workers to eat in the tavern. "This is Jon Snow, I'm here to teach Mccan and the other 5 swordsmen." Jason Lu solemnly introduced Jon to Lena and the others, giving Jon the greatest respect. It was the first time Jon was introduced to such a formal occasion, and he couldn't help but feel a little unnatural but more excited. "In my heart, I am very grateful to Jason Lu, who has just met him today, but has made him feel the respect he has never had in his life, as his best friend." Hearing Jason Lu's introduction, Lena and the others could also see that Mr. Jason attached great importance to this famous illegitimate child of Winterfell, so they didn't dare to neglect and greeted Jon kindly. Next, Jason Lu introduced all the others to Jon. It made this meal have a strong taste of joining in. Jon didn't think about it, Jason Lu was actually thinking of taking him in as his younger brother. He simply thought that this young adult looked up to him, and was an extremely kind, benevolent, and noble. After all, Jon had heard a lot of rumors about Jason Lu before, and the townspeople of Winterfell Market Town simply praised him. Jason Lu certainly knew why the townspeople in Bidong Market Town praised him so hard. Just look at the more than 200 workers on the construction site who received high salaries and provided meals. Jason Lu scatters a lot of money, and most of the families in the winter shelter town have received his favor. How can he not boast about it? In Jon's eyes, this lunch, which was absolutely sumptuous, ended in a happy atmosphere. "I didn't drink. After all, the people here are not very old, and Jason Lu himself doesn't like drinking very much." After having a full meal, and resting for a while, Jon took the 5 of Mccan to practice swordsmanship responsibly. Looking at the enthusiastic Jon, Jason Lu is satisfied. In the afternoon, he explained to Lena, and then teleported back to the modern warehouse. He counted the time, because today the black work clothes he ordered from the internet arrived. A total of 40 sets were sent to the warehouse, and then sent directly to Westeros, room with the tooling, and then returned. After leaving the warehouse, he took a taxi back to the villa. "I don't plan to go back to Westeros tonight, so I rest in the villa." After paying for the soap, food, and tooling, and seeing that there was less than 30,000 yuan left in the account, Jason Lu felt that he should find a way to make money. "I had previously considered buying gold through Audiobook, a merchant in the west, and selling the goods to him for settlement in gold, but I don't know when he will come back. After all, the traffic conditions in Westeros are poor. If you go from Winterfell in the north to Castle Rock in the west, it will take at least 1 or 2 months. God knows when he will come back. Otherwise, continue to sell gold dragon coins." Thinking of selling gold dragon coins, Jason Lu lay on the luxurious sofa in the living room and checked the recent gold price. Suddenly, a piece of news caught his attention. A herdsman in Mongolia picked up a piece of 1.47 kilograms of doghead gold in the grasslands while shepherding sheep. A buyer offered a maximum price of 1 million to buy it, but because the ownership rights were not confirmed, the herdsman dared not sell it. On the internet, the ownership of precious items such as doghead gold, and even cultural relics, their ownership rights and the amount of rewards that should be awarded after handing in, rushed to the hot search. Seeing that doghead gold is so expensive, Jason Lu couldn't help but search for information about doghead gold. Doghead gold, a kind of gold-rich ore, is a nugget of naturally produced, impure texture, large particles and irregular shapes. It is usually composed of native gold, quartz and other mineral aggregates. Because of its shape like a dog's head, it is called doghead gold. There are also horseshoe-like ones called horseshoe gold. Because it is extremely rare and has a high collection value, it is sought after by people. Usually a piece of doghead gold can be sold for several times the price of pure gold of the same weight. The world's largest doghead gold so far was found in Tuao, weighing 235.87 kg. There are not many found in China, and the weight rarely exceeds 10 kg. Therefore, it is so rare that it is highly sought after by everyone. Seeing the introduction of Gotogen on the internet, Jason Lu suddenly came to his senses. Westeros has nothing to say about doghead gold. That is to say, in the eyes of Westeros, doghead gold needs to be melted to extract the pure gold inside, and doghead gold is not as good as pure gold of equal weight to them. Gold is valuable. Thinking of this, Jason Lu felt that he had suddenly discovered a more profitable business than selling gold, buying doghead gold from Westeros and selling it in Hyundai. The more he thinks about this idea, the better. Jason Lu has already begun to hope that Odover, a merchant from the west border, will come soon. Maybe through him, he can buy doghead gold in the gold-rich west border. After thinking about it for a while, at night, I ordered takeout, and searched a lot of news about doghead gold on the internet, as well as identification methods, and went to bed very late. The next day, he got up early, took a taxi to the nearest supermarket, and bought another batch of flour, cooking oil, pork, beef, chicken, mutton, sugar, salt, bowls, chopsticks, and toilet paper. Jason Lu is not used to spoons and prefers to use chopsticks. Although Lena and the others are not good at using chopsticks, since adults use them, they also try to learn to use them. Fruits bought apples, pears, grapes, oranges, watermelons and more. For vegetables, I bought some cucumbers, tomatoes, spinach, cauliflower, and peppers. I bought a few big bags of candy, and a big bag of biscuits. A total of tens of thousands of yuan were spent, and there was not much money left in the account. The manager of the supermarket asked the handlebar to help him deliver it to the warehouse for free, and also enthusiastically gave him a super membership card, which will give him a discount next time. Although it is not bad for this discount, it is always good to be able to save a little. It is a virtue to be diligent and thrifty. Remembering that the batch of soap I bought before was too fragrant and worried that there would be a problem, Jason Lu called the owner of the soap factory and asked what was going on. "Oh, Mr. Lu, don't worry, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that batch of soap, and it will never cause harm to the human body." Boss Ma promised again and again, and then thanked Jason Lu. "You don't know, if it weren't for your large order, my factory would have really closed down. So, I really want to thank you." "You're welcome. As long as the soap produced by your factory is safe and the quality is guaranteed, I'm going to place a bigger order next time." Jason Lu felt a little relieved after hearing the assurance from Boss Ma. "That's great, then I'll be waiting for your big order. When will you come to Uzbekistan? My old horse will invite you to dinner." Boss Ma said with surprise when he heard that there was a bigger order in the future. The largest wholesale market for small commodities in the country in Uzbekistan, he can go there when he has time. After all, the amount of things he will be transporting to Westeros is relatively large in the future, so it is better to find a manufacturer in Uzbekistan to do it. After all, Wei province is separated from Henan province and Zhejiang province, which is not far. After hanging up the phone with Boss Ma, Jason Lu shipped the things he just bought to Westeros several times. During this period of time, he interrupted his stay in Westeros, and began to let out the wind among the merchants, buying doghead gold, or natural nugget at a high price. In order to increase the enthusiasm of the merchants, he would use the price of pure gold to repurchase the doghead gold, so that he would not be afraid that those businessmen would not work hard to find the doghead gold and sell it to him. Well, this method is good. First use cheap commodity blood to earn a wave of golden dragons, and then use the earned golden dragons to buy doghead gold, and then take it back to modern times to sell it. The doghead gold alone can be sold for several times the price of pure gold. Over and over again, the profit has definitely reached hundreds of times. What a great deal. Chapter 51. Of course, the premise is that Westeros can receive kotatsu. Regarding this, it depends on whether those businessmen sell hard. To be honest, he is more optimistic about Odover, a merchant from the western region who had a transaction, and hopes that this guy can quickly sell the pen and paper, and then come back to buy, and maybe he can get some money from him. Back to Westeros's room, the house is already full of food, and 40 sets of tooling. Because he has already told his staff that no one is allowed to enter his room without his permission. When he came out of the room, he called for Martha, Lena, and Susan from the store downstairs to carry food and tooling. After learning that Jon had been training the 5 Mccans, Jason Lu asked Bella to inform them to come over and prepare to send the black work clothes. Soon, Bella followed Jon and the others back to the store. "Sir," Mccan and the five saluted Jason Lu. Jon hesitated, then bowed his head and saluted, "Master Jason." "Jon, didn't you train with Sir Roderick today?" Jason Lu greeted Jon to sit down and asked casually. "Sir Roderick took the guards to a village outside the wolf forest. It is said that the village was attacked by wild wolves last night." Jon finished, took a cup of tea brought by Vanessa, and thanked him. "Oh, so it is." Jason Lu nodded. "This kind of thing is normal. The villages near Winterfell are all the direct descendants of the Stark family. The village was attacked by beasts. Winterfell will definitely send people to encircle the beasts, to protect the safety of the villagers." No longer concerned about this matter, Jason Lu took out 40 sets of black labor insurance suits and asked everyone to choose 2 sets. Lena and the others were very happy to receive this kind of clothes from the adult's hometown, which is similar to the clothes that Mr. Jason wears. The girls couldn't wait to go back to their rooms and change into new clothes. The Mccans had just trained with a stinky sweat, and went to take a shower first, and then put on this black clothes. Jon was also dragged to take a shower and changed into a black overalls. Looking at his subordinates who looked extremely neat in black overalls, Jason Lu finally felt a little sense of accomplishment as a boss. "It's so comfortable, this kind of clothes is really good to wear. What kind of fabric is this made of? The stitches are also very dense, it must have been sewn by a female worker with a very good income. Hee, this fabric is really strong, so you won't be afraid of being worn out in the future. It's really light, much lighter than a bulky wool sweater. And also very warm, not worse than a sweater." Several women chattered and discussed the work clothes on their bodies, and they liked this kind of clothes designed by modern science, which is cold and warm, resistant to dirt and wear, easy to clean, and convenient to wear. Even the 3 Barlow brothers, Mccan and Dick, were all smiles. Jon is also curious about what kind of fabric this kind of clothes is made of. It feels denser than Bran, the clothes he wore before. Presumably the price of this clothes is not cheap. "Master Jason, this kind of clothes must be expensive, right?" "I can't help you, I'm really embarrassed to accept your gift," Jon said embarrassedly. "Never mind, Jon, it's not worth anything to me, really. Don't say no, you've helped me train Mccan and the others for free, and a dress for you is nothing at all." Jason Lu patted the boy on the shoulder and said sincerely, "Thank you, Mr. Jason." Jon was very moved. He seldom received gifts since he was a child, and he still had such expensive clothes. Well, modern textiles and Westeros linen clothes are many times stronger in terms of comfort, breathability, and strength. Even the finest silk in Westeros isn't much better than these protective clothing. The industrial age completely crushed the agricultural age. At noon, Jason Lu asked Jon to eat here again, and told him that he could come here to eat every day in the future, and everyone could chat and exchange swordsmanship. Since Jon was unwilling to accept the salary that Jason Lu paid his swordsmanship instructor, Jason Lu wanted to take care of him and not let Jon refuse. Jason Lu knows very well that Jon can't wait to escape from Winterfell. No one will discriminate against him when he eats here. Everyone is a friend. He can be respected here, which is what Jon values most. In Winterfell he suffered all the scorn and very few people had kindness towards him. Moreover, Lena quietly told him that there were rumors in Winterfell recently, saying that when Jon came of age next year, Lord Ed would give Jon a piece of territory, so Jon is now more crowded out by people in Winterfell. Hearing this news, Jason Lu sighed slightly. He really can't help Jon too much, maybe he can let Jon move out and live with him. Thinking it was a good idea, he decided to ask Jon if he would like it. However, Jon rejected Jason Lu's kindness and didn't want to live with him, and didn't want to cause trouble for Mr. Jason, who she had identified as her real friend. But at Jason Lu's insistence, Jon promised to be here every day and eat with them. In the evening, when Jon and Jason Lu finished their meal at the single store, and returned to Winterfell in neat black overalls, everyone they met along the way looked at him in amazement. In 2 days, basically the entire Winterfell knew that Jon Snow, the illegitimate son of Lord Eddard, was hired by the kind and benevolent Lord East as the swordsmanship instructor, responsible for teaching his guards swordsmanship. This incident caused quite a stir in Winterfell. Many people are thinking in their hearts, what exactly did Lord Easter like about this lowly illegitimate child? perhaps because he was too kind to see the difficult situation of Jon Snow, the illegitimate child. Yes, it is indeed difficult. Because his master Robb is about to come of age, the illegitimate child will also come of age, which involves the change of power in Winterfell. Many people are worried that Lord Ed will make his illegitimate son a noble, and distribute the property of Master Robb, who belongs to the eldest heir, to Jon Snow. Lady Catelyn, the hostess of Winterfell, was especially worried. Therefore, she has recently seen Jon getting more and more disgusted, worried that this monster, sent by the seven gods to punish her, has taken away the property that should have belonged to her children. Therefore, Jon's situation in Winterfell became more and more difficult during this period of time. Even Ed Stark noticed something was wrong with the atmosphere, and even he personally assured his wife that he would never give Jon any property, and rumors circulated in the castle. These assurances will not dissuade Mrs. Catelyn from her vigilance unless she sees her husband drive Jon out of Winterfell, never to appear in front of her again, or die directly outside one day. Though the thought of letting this person die, it made Catelyn feel guilty. But she was really fed up with the pain she felt inside every time she saw that child. Since the hostess of Winterfell behaved like this, the following servants, who are very observant, treat Jon even worse. In this regard, even Ed couldn't do anything, and couldn't stop sighing in his heart. However, there was nothing he could do to protect Jon. At the same time, he also began to think about the child's future. How on earth should he arrange Jon? Sitting behind the large desk, Ed was a little lost in thought for a while. Occasionally, his eyes fell on the gel pen on the table, the far better quill pen that Wayne Poole had bought from Jason East, who came from the Far East. He also likes this kind of gel pen that does not need to be dipped in ink from time to time. With this kind of pen, the writing speed is greatly accelerated and the handling of government affairs is more efficient. Well, in addition to the pen, there is also this kind of smooth and white paper, which is also very easy to use. The soap is also easy to use, not only the bath is clean, but also has a faint fragrance. I heard that the servants in the castle also started to use this soap. And soap is also good, Wei Yong said it works well for laundry. At this time, Ed suddenly remembered that Robb had told him today that Jon seemed to have become good friends with the young nobleman, and at the nobleman's request, he helped train the guards in swordsmanship. Hearing this news at the time, Ed just laughed. After all, Jon is so old, swordsmanship cannot reach the point where he can teach others. However, thinking about this today, Ed paid more attention to the fact that the Lord East and Jon had a very good relationship. Robb said that the other party valued Jon very much. So, is this a solution to Jon's future? Ed clasped his hands and leaned back in his chair, brooding. In the bedroom, Mrs. Catelyn, who had just taken a bath with soap, had long burgundy hair draped over her shoulders softly. Although she was 34 years old, her face was still smooth and she looked very beautiful. Speaking of which, Game of Thrones has a big disadvantage in casting roles. The actors used are too old and many of them look ugly. Lady Catelyn in the original was beautiful, but the casting turned out to be old and ugly. Little Rose, Marjorie Tyrell was very young and beautiful, and the casting turned out to be old and ugly. Including the dragon mother Daenerys, with long silver hair and purple eyes, she is the most beautiful of all women in the original book, but the character chosen by the director is not as good looking as described in the novel at all, the gap is too big. Anyway, the Jon, Robb, Sansa, Arya and others that Jason Liu met were all younger, handsome and beautiful than the actors in the TV series. One thing I have to admit, Bran, who was cast in the TV series, was really handsome and cute when he was a child. This is finally in line with the original book. At this time, Mrs. Catelyn was also thinking about the illegitimate child. Although her husband had assured her that he would not give Jon any property, she could not fully believe it. He heard from Robb that the foreign nobleman valued the illegitimate son very much, and even without considering his young age, he directly handed him the training of the guards, which was enough to show the importance of the illegitimate son. She was extremely uncomfortable when she heard the news, but after thinking about it carefully, this might not be a solution to the illegitimate child problem. Let Jason East take the illegitimate child as his subordinate, and then drive the illegitimate child out of the hospital. Winter City. The more I think about it, the more reliable this method is, and maybe Ed will agree. Jason Liu didn't know it yet, because his overvalued attitude towards Jon caught the attention of Ed and his wife. At this time, he was discussing with his employees to spread the news of the purchase of natural gold nuggets at the same weight of pure gold price, and let the merchants in Westeros bring the natural gold nuggets to sell to him. Lena, Martha, Susan, Barlow, and Mccan were stunned when they heard about such a weird acquisition by Mr. Jason. Although they don't know one big character, they still know the difference between natural gold nuggets and pure gold. Natural gold nuggets must contain a lot of other metals and stone impurities, which must be much less than pure gold of equal weight. And Mr. Jason is actually willing to use the same weight of pure gold to buy natural gold nuggets containing impurities. This obvious behavior that suffers a lot is completely incomprehensible. If it wasn't for the respect and admiration of Lord Jason, Lena and the others might have secretly called him an idiot. Although, Mr. Jason did do a lot of incomprehensible things, such as recruiting more workers to build houses, managing workers 3 meals a day, and paying particularly high wages. Although everyone on the surface praised the kindness and generosity of Lord Jason, in private, some people laughed at Lord Jason for being a fool. Lord, if the villain understands correctly, do you mean to use the price of pure gold of equal weight to buy natural gold nuggets that contain a lot of impurities, and the actual weight of gold is much less than that of pure gold of equal weight? Bud, the smartest brother among the 3 brothers, with round eyes, couldn't help but confirm again. Looking at the subordinates present, Jason Liu was completely stunned by his apparent, big loss, prank, and he scratched his head. What I can earn, did you see it on the surface? Are you thinking about it, my lord? Lena also cautiously persuaded. The others nodded, looking at Lord Jason expectantly, hoping he wouldn't do such a stupid thing. To exchange equal weight of pure gold for impure nuggets of natural gold is a foolish idea. Of course I won't do such a loss-making business. Although it looks like I'm at a loss, this kind of natural gold nugget is very popular with the nobles in my hometown, and the price is very high. Gold nuggets, take them back to my hometown to sell. Not only will you not lose money, but you will also make a fortune. Jason Liu explained to his subordinates the purpose of doing this, and then asked everyone to immediately spread the news of the acquisition of natural gold nuggets among the merchants in the winter market town. Are you saying that there will be merchants who will bring natural gold nuggets to sell to me? Jason Liu looked at his subordinates uncertainly. Also, how many natural gold nuggets are there in Westeros? Of course it will, my lord. Lena clapped her hands, stared at her big beautiful eyes, and said affirmatively, natural gold nuggets have to be refined into gold before they can be sold, and you directly purchase natural gold nuggets at such a high price, saving them the need to refine gold. There will be a merchant who will sell you a natural gold nugget. How many natural gold nuggets are there in Westeros? I don't know. Martha held little Lillian in her arms, frowned slightly, shook her head and said, maybe there will be many in the west, because everyone knows, there are gold mines all over the land in the western region, and I heard that you can dig gold ore just by digging it. Can you dig up gold ore just by digging down? Jason Liu certainly doesn't believe such hyperbole. The Western Territory is indeed rich in gold, but it is not as outrageous as rumored. The toilets of Duke Tywin, the guardian of the western border, are all golden. When Lord Tywin goes to the toilet, doesn't he think the golden toilet is ice cold? Just thinking about it here is of no use. So, Jason Liu asked the 3 Barlow brothers, who were not trained today, Mccan and Dick, to go to the winter market town. The pub, the women's branch, and the market spread the news that he bought natural gold bullion at a high price with pure gold. Purchasing natural gold at the price of pure gold. Is it true or false? The first reaction of the businessman who heard the news was disbelief. Who would do such a stupid thing? Buying natural gold nuggets at pure gold price is too much of a loss. That's not how you do business. This is what the Lord Jason Easter wants to buy, it should be true. Oh, so it's that Lord. It seems that this is true, that Lord is not from Westeros, and may be different from us. What's the difference? Is there more JB below? Ha ha ha. The vulgar joke made the tavern burst into laughter. Those small businessmen from the western region are very excited. After all, there are many gold mines in the western region, and although there are not many natural gold nuggets, there are still some. It's just that these little merchants don't have that much capital, otherwise they would definitely sell them to the Lord with natural gold nuggets, and then buy some gel pens and white paper from his shop. I heard that Eddard, Duke of Winterfell, likes it very much. Use it. After so long, the first batch of businessmen who bought paper and pens from Jason Lu have rushed back to their hometown. The twin city in the Riverland, the patriarch of the Frey family, who is 90 years old this year, Marquis Walder Frey, who has given birth to many children, made an exception to summon the twin city businessman who presented him with a magical gel pen. Your name is Carlo, isn't it? Marquis Ward sat high on the seat in the hall, with his old and dry arms on the table in front of him, holding a gel pen in his right hand, his wrinkled face, squinting slightly, he stared at the businessman who knelt down and saluted. The Marquis of Ward, also dubbed, Late Frey, by his monarch Horst Tully, Duke of the Riverlands, to mock him for sitting on the sidelines of the usurpers' battle until the two sides parted ways. The outcome was decided, and he brought the army to join the victor's side. This kind of shameless behavior was very much watched by the nobles of the Riverland, but the Marquis of Walder Frey was thick-skinned, and his family's castle, the Twin Rivers, was built on the Sancha River, and he had to pay taxes for crossing the river. Therefore, the Frey family of the Twin City is among the lords of the Riverland, and the wealth level is not inferior to the Tully family, the master of the Riverland. Because of the money, the area of the fief is not small, and the military strength is also strong, and the strength is naturally strong. Now that his own strength is strong, the Frey family has gradually expanded, and some people don't pay much attention to the Fengjun Tully family. They have always violated the orders of the emperor, which made Duke Horst very angry, but nothing special. Good way. Therefore, now that the Frey family is in the Riverland, it is already a little too big. In the Hall of the Twin Rivers, after the merchant Carlo finished his salute, he slowly got up, raised his head slightly, looked at Marquis Wade sitting high above with awe in his eyes, bowed his body, and replied respectfully, "Sir, little one. Ren Carlo, it is the people under your rule." Marquis Ward raised his left hand slightly, and was serving the 8th wife he just married. Seeing her husband stretch out his hand, the 16-year-old wife immediately handed over the wine glass. After taking a sip of the summer red wine from Qingting Island and moistening his throat, Marquis Ward said again, "Carlo, you did a good job. This gel pen has helped a lot. The quill is too thin, constantly dipping in ink also makes me an old man tired. With this pen and white paper, it is more convenient to handle government affairs." Saying that, old Walder complimented generously, "You did a great job. It is a villain's supreme honor to serve you, my lord." Being praised by Marquis Walder, Carlo was shaking slightly with excitement, and quickly bowed to thank him. Having been used to seeing dozens of children and grandchildren flattering in front of him, and wanting to gain his favor, Marquis Ward has no feeling for the compliment of this little businessman. "Okay, the kind of paper and pen you brought this time. I bought them all. Although some are too small, it is enough for me for the time being." After speaking, he instructed the chief of the Twin Rivers city to leave with the merchant. Businessman Carlo previously bought 10 gel pens, 30 refills and 50 sheets of white paper from Bidong Market Town. Each gel pen has 1 silver deer, 50 copper stars for the refill, and 10 copper stars for a piece of white paper. Sold it to the Frey family. He boldly sold a gel pen for 10 silver deer, a refill of 5 silver deer, and a blank sheet of paper for 50 bronze stars. When he took over 2 golden dragons and 75 silver deer from the chief of the Twin City, he could hardly hide the excited smile on his face. On this trip, he made a full profit of 2 golden dragons and 45 silver deers, more than 8 times the profit. "If you have this kind of paper and pens in the future, come to me directly. The Twin City needs more of this kind of paper and pens." The head of the Twin City manager raised his head and said proudly, "The Foyle family will not be short of yours. Some money." Carlo nodded and said yes, and sent off the chief of the Twin City. Then, he immediately flew back to the inn in the city, got on the carriage, urged his subordinates to drive the carriage, and immediately headed to Bidong Market Town. This time he must buy more of this kind of paper and pens. Anthony Guyton, a businessman from King's Landing who proudly contracted Jason Lu's first batch of 100 bars of soap, took a boat from White Harbor in the north, sailed at sea for more than 10 days, and finally returned to King's Landing. "First, I went home and had a good rest for a day. After all, the long-distance boat ride was really uncomfortable. Then, the merchant brought gel pens, refills, white paper and soap, and led his servants to the Lord of Stormland, the former high-ranking minister of the royal court, the third brother of His Majesty King Robert, and the Duke of Storm's End Renly Baratheon's luxurious mansion in King's Landing. With a noble status, handsome and romantic, young and rich, Duke Renly, who likes to communicate, is not only loved by his eldest brother King Robert, but also very good at life. During his tenure as Minister of Justice, he held several grand banquets almost every month, and invited all the important officials in the court, the dignitaries who stayed in King's Landing, and the nobles directly under the king's territory. Handsome, rich, generous, long-sleeved, good at dancing, and good at sociability, these make Duke Renly popular in King's Landing. Not only the rich and powerful like to associate with him, but even the common people of King's Landing love this duke. As a businessman from King's Landing, Anthony was once fortunate enough to be invited to Duke Renly's lavish banquet, although his status was low and he was unable to speak to such a noble and important person as Duke Renly. However, under his deliberate friendship, he had a good friendship with one of Lord Renly's bodyguards. When Anthony came to Duke Renly's mansion, found the well-connected guard, and stated his purpose for coming here, the guard hesitated, thinking that his own adults like novel things very much, maybe he really likes his old friend Anthony, brought something. So he took the gel pen and white paper that Anthony gave him, and found Lord Renly, who was drinking and having fun with a few guards in the garden. "My lord, King's Landing merchant Anthony wants to ask to see you. He said that he brought some very good products from the north and wants to present them to you," the guard said, handing over a gel pen and white paper. Originally, Renly was a little upset when he was interrupted to play with Loras Tyrell. Loras Tyrell, the famous Knight of Flowers in Westeros, was born in the Tyrell family, Lord of the River Bend, and was the second son of the Duke of Highgarden. A bodyguard and lover, Renly's favorite. However, when he saw two items he had never seen before handed over by his guards, Renly swallowed the words he was about to reprimand, but asked curiously, "What is this?" Loras, who was sitting next to him with a wine glass in his hand, also came over to look at it, and couldn't help but wonder, "What is this for? This white one looks a bit like cloth and parchment." Quote. The guard actually didn't know much about it, so he could only briefly describe the functions of the gel pen and white paper according to what Anthony taught him. After explaining the gel pen and white paper, the guard finally said, "If you want to know more, sir, Anthony will be waiting outside. You can summon him to ask in person." After hearing what the guard said, Renly also knew that this was a pen used for writing like a quill pen, and white paper like parchment. With a wave of his hand, he sent the guards to call the businessman named Anthony. Renly and Loras took a gel pen with great interest and tried to write on the white paper. Soon, Anthony couldn't hide the joy in his face, and followed the guards into the garden. When he saw Duke Renly sitting in the garden, he immediately stepped forward and knelt down to salute. "It's really a villain to be summoned by you. Honored Lord Renly, may the seven gods bless you." Renly, who has written a long line on white paper and can use a gel pen proficiently, is full of interest in this kind of dipping ink back and forth without the hassle, and the gorgeous clothes on his body that are stained with ink that he hates. Waving his hand to get Anthony to stand up, Renly asked with interest, "This gel pen and white paper, how much do you have in your hand?" "I like it very much, I bought them all. It's an honor for the villain to be liked by you." With a humble compliment, Anthony immediately said, "The villain has a total of 100 gel pens, 500 refills and 1,000 pieces of white paper like that. Gel pen 5 silver deer, a replaceable refill 2 silver deer, a piece of white paper 50 bronze stars, so. Don't mention the price, I'll buy it all, and let the steward give you the money later." Duke Renly interrupted the merchant impatiently, his handsome face a little impatient. He didn't have time to pay attention to such a trivial matter. Anthony's asking price is definitely a conscience. It's not that he doesn't want to make a lot of money, but that he wants to use this transaction to gain a relationship with Duke Renly. If he can have a relationship with Duke Renly, he will get what he can get after King's Landing. The benefits are simply not too much, compared to this little money, that is the real gain. However, seeing that Duke Renly was no longer interested in paying attention to himself, Anthony couldn't help but feel anxious, so he stopped hiding and took out the soap, my lord, in addition to paper and pen, I brought you this time, from far away the Eastern Empire, a soap that only the top dignitaries can use. Soap. Such a strange word, Renly was sure he had never heard of it before, so he frowned slightly and looked curiously at the white thing held by the businessman. Vaguely, he seemed to smell a very nice rose scent. It smells good. Loras Tyrell, the Knight of Flowers next to him, sniffed, took the soap from Anthony's hand with a face full of surprise, put it under his nose and smelled it carefully. Ah, this scent is a bit like High Court. The elegant white orchids in the garden, this is my favorite flower. Prince, why do I think it's the scent of roses? Renly looked puzzled, wanting to take it from Loras and smell it carefully. Upon seeing this, Anthony cleverly handed another piece, tore open the carton, and respectfully handed it to Renly. Renly was stunned for a moment, then glanced at Anthony, the smart and sensible businessman, gave him a look of approval, and then put this piece of white soap under his nose and sniffed. Smelling the rich rose scent on the soap, Renly couldn't help showing a look of intoxication on his face. It's the scent of roses. I can be sure that the scent is exactly the same as the roses planted in my garden. This kind of soap from the distant Eastern Empire and sought after by nobles can wash hands, face, and bathe. It is not only cleaner than soap horns, but also leaves the body extremely refreshed after washing, and has a rich and intoxicating aroma. Anthony boasted of the beauty of soap at the side. To be honest, when I used it for the first time, I was really conquered by this wonderful thing. This is a real good thing that only nobles can enjoy. So, the villain immediately thought of you, Lord Renly, who is respected and loved by the people of King's Landing, hee. Being touted by Anthony is very comfortable, and good things like soap really made Renly like it. In order to verify that what Anthony said was true, Renly decided to take a bath and try it himself. I washed too, just happened to be sweating just now. Sir Loras held the soap in his hand and instructed the servant beside him to put water in the bath. Anthony watched Lord Renly and Sir Loras leave, and could only sit and wait in the garden. Renly and Loras entered the bath together and washed with soap. After coming out of the shower and getting dressed again under Loras' service, Renly felt dry as never before. Loras stood behind Renly and helped him organize his clothes. He sniffed his nose close to Renly's neck and couldn't help laughing. Sir, you really smell so good. Renly grabbed Loras's hand with a smile, sniffed it, and said with a smile, yours too. It seems that what the merchant said is true. This soap is really good, better than saponin. Much better. I have decided that I will use this soap in the future when I absorb, wash my face and bathe. Of course, as long as you want. Loras smiled and put on his clothes. The two walked into the garden again with smiles on their faces, and the businessman Anthony immediately got up and bowed. Your name is Anthony, right? Renly looked at Anthony with a smile on his face this time, and he walked straight over to go back to the chair, with Loras sitting next to him. Yes, my lord, Anthony replied respectfully, and from the gentle, joyful tone of Lord Renly, he felt that he was going to be lucky today. Sure enough, Renly smiled and let him sit down, then asked the servant beside him to pour him a glass of wine. Anthony took it with a look of flattery, and thanked Renly again and again. The pens, paper, and soap you brought are all very good, especially the soap. Renly smiled and sipped the wine in his glass, looking at him expectantly. How much of this soap do you have? I'm going to hold a grand banquet recently, and even His Majesty the King will be there. Soap, for the nobles present. I'm sure they will like it as much as I do. So, tell me, how much do you have in your hands? Renly raised his smooth chin slightly, inadvertently exuding the noble temperament of a top noble. My lord, in addition to the one used by the villain, and the two used by you and Sir Loras, there are still 97 pieces left. The villain will immediately deliver all the soaps to your house. Anthony was extremely excited. It is definitely good news that Lord Renly is going to give soap as a gift to the dignitaries of King's Landing at the banquet attended by His Majesty the King. If His Majesty the King and the dignitaries in King's Landing used soap, it is conceivable that this wonderful thing, soap, would definitely be popular in Westeros in the first place. What a huge market this must be. No, before the other merchants in King's Landing can react, I have to go to the north again and buy a lot of soap from the Lord Jason Easter from the Far East. Is it only $97? Renly couldn't help frowning. It was too little. Even if it was a piece for one person, it wouldn't be enough for so many people, not to mention his brother King Robert, and the Queen, Joffrey, Myrcella and Tommen. This family must want a lot. The villain will immediately go to the north again and find the Lord Jason Easter from the Far East to buy more, but it will take a month at the earliest. Anthony said at the end, the voice could not help lowering. Renly thought about it for a while, and finally patted the armrest of the chair, and decided, send all the 97 yuan you have in your hand first. This time the banquet is open as usual, but there is only so much soap, so I can't give it to everyone. Since it can't be given to everyone, it can only be given to those with the highest status. In addition to the king's family, there are also the Prime Minister, Lord Jon Arryn, the Captain of the Kingsguard, Sir Barristan Selmy, and the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Littlefinger. Petter Baelish, the Intelligence Chief, Octopus, Varys, the Grand Master Pycelle, and the noble lords in King's Landing. The second brother of the Sea Minister, Stannis, is on Dragonstone Island, and he will definitely not come back to his banquet, so he will not be sent. After thinking about it a few times, this is almost enough to send. Thinking it was good, Renly asked the butler to follow Anthony directly to get it, and finally added, go and buy more soap as soon as possible. Anthony and the butler of Lord Renly's house returned to his house together, and then loaded all the gel pens, refills, white paper and soap that Lord Renly wanted on the carriage brought by the butler. Anthony didn't make much money from the paper and pen just now, but he didn't dare to sell soap, which he boasted is a luxury item for the top aristocrats. After all, Lord Renly will soon give the soap to the king and important officials in the court. The low price is not worthy of the noble status of these great people. 50 silver dear for a bar of soap. Anthony carefully offered a price, while paying attention to Lord Renly's butler's expression. It's so cheap. Lord Renly's butler was worthy of being from a top noble's mansion, a bar of soap the size of a palm, 50 silver dear, and he still said it was cheap. Anthony hesitated for a moment, scolding himself for being timid, and should bid 100 silver dear, which is 1 gold dragon piece. In this case, it is 100 times the benefit. However, since the words have been said, he does not dare to reset the price greedily, or else do he really think that these people from the great nobles are fools? If you buy a piece of soap for 1 silver dear and sell it for 50 silver dear, 50 times the profit is enough. Don't be too greedy. Finally, after calculating the price of everything, a total of 69 gold dragons and 50 silver dears. Lord Renly's butler counted out 70 golden dragons from the purse without blinking, and the 50 silver dear that were more than 50 were given to him by Lord Renly. Anthony directly gave a golden dragon to the housekeeper, thanking the other party for his hard work with him, hoping that everyone will become friends in the future, pull the relationship. Being stuffed with a golden dragon, the butler who used to be arrogant, was short-handed and his attitude became better. He told Anthony that next time he had good things like soap, he could go directly to Lord Renly's mansion. Find yourself. He politely sent away the butler of Lord Renly's house, and Anthony was very excited with a purse full of golden dragons in his hand. It's not that he is excited about the 69 golden dragons in his wallet. Although there are a lot of 69 golden dragons, Anthony also has thousands of golden dragons, potential. If it is done well, before the big businessmen in King's Landing City, and buy a large amount of paper, pens and soap from Mr. Jason in the north, wouldn't he actually have a chance to become a big businessman? The more he thought about it, the more feasible it seemed, and he ordered his servants to go to the Blackwater Bay wharf to contract a whole merchant ship. He decided to rush to the North Winterfell as soon as possible to buy a large batch before others and bring it back to King's Landing. At this time, the western businessman who was on his way to Winterfell, Odover, who was thinking of Jason Liu, also thought the same. At that time, he bought paper and a pen and hurried back to the western border, going to try his luck at Lannister's house in Castle Rock City. Unexpectedly, in Golden Tooth City, a big businessman in the city took a fancy to him and took the paper and pen directly from his hand. All bought. He didn't want to sell it at first, but the other party gave too much. A gel pen 8 silver dear, a refill 3 silver dear, a piece of white paper 70 bronze stars. Odover made a lot of money. Then he regretted it the next day. Because Lord Leo Levert of the LaFord family in Golden Tooth City, and from the big businessman who bought his own pen and paper, bought the goods that were supposed to be his at a high price. Not only did Odover earn a fortune, but it was also a chance to deal with the great nobles. Too bad. Aldover hurried non-stop to Winterfell in the north, while secretly regretting it in his heart, swearing that he must buy a large amount of this trip, and then take it directly to Lannister's house in Castle Rock City, and definitely sell it for a higher price. The big businessman Bert Bancroft in the Golden Tooth City who bought this magical paper and pen from Odover has been sending people to stare at Odover, hoping to learn about these magical papers from this little businessman and the source of the pen. When he learned that Odover was driving the carriage to the north, Bert immediately ordered his servants to prepare the carriage, and he was going to go personally. Because this kind of magical pen and paper has spread in the Golden Tooth City, many nobles want to buy it, but he has already sold all of it to Count Leo. It was extremely painful for Bert to sit back and watch such an opportunity to make money slip away from his hands. These are all profits, huge profits. Therefore, as soon as Odover set off, the people he sent came back to report to him immediately, and Bert, who had already prepared, drove the motorcade behind Odover, and also went all the way to the north. Well, it's a motorcade. After all, a businessman must take the special products from the west region acquired by Golden Teeth City to the north region along the way, so that they can make more money. It would be too business-minded to run with an empty carriage. As one of the largest businessmen in the Golden Tooth City, Bert would not make such common-sense mistakes. Therefore, in Jason Lu's store these days, more and more businessmen come to buy pen and paper, soap, and many of them are more generous. It is dozens of buy. Many people have heard that the Stark family of Winterfell has bought a lot, and even the Mandalay family of the Earl of White Harbor in the north seems to have used this magical pen and paper. For a time, the nobles of the entire bygang began to inquire about where this kind of pen and paper was sold, and wanted to see the magical pen and paper that Count Wyman was full of praise. When the merchants from the Twin City in the Riverland brought the news that Lord Walder Frey also used a gel pen and white paper, and was very satisfied with the news, the enthusiasm of the merchants in the winter market town was immediately ignited. Originally, I just bought some with the attitude of trying it out, but now all the merchants took out more than half of their money, bought pen and paper, soap, and prepared to go to Schönleinberg, Turunfang City, etc. in the north. Fort Dread, Last Hearth City, Kaho City, Widow hope to seize the market. The merchants from the north alone bought thousands of gel pens, tens of thousands of refills, thousands of sheets of A4 paper, tens of thousands of soaps, and thousands of soaps in Jason Lu's store. The total amount reached 125 gold dragons and 42 silver deers. The merchants from Hegiandi were also unwilling. Although there were not many people in Bidong Market Town, they also bought hundreds of gel pens, thousands of refills, thousands of sheets of paper, more than 3,000 bars of soap, and 500 bars of soap. The amount also has more than 50 golden dragons. In just 3 days, Jason Lu has earned more than 200 gold dragons. In addition to the previous ones, he now has 221 gold dragons, 63 silver deers, and thousands of bronze stars. An accurate calculation, 221 golden dragons, if you get a modern one at 11,000 yuan, this is more than 2.43 million yuan. Jason Lu is already worth millions. And that's just the beginning, there's still a lot of stock in the store. Before, he bought 10,000 bars of soap, 100,000 bars of soap, 10,000 gel pens, 100,000 refills, and 15,000 sheets of A4 paper. In the past 3 days, less than 1/5 of the inventory has been sold. If all are sold out, Jason Lu will earn tens of millions properly. It's just that he is not satisfied, and wants to buy the gold dragon in his hand, and then bring it back to Hyundai to sell it, so that it can be doubled. It seems that it is not far from making enough small goals. So, although busy these days, Jason Lu is very happy. Because he recruited 5 more guards, and because the business was too busy, the 5 new recruits, the 5 Barlows, and even Jon, helped sell the goods. The training had to be suspended first. Jon understands this very well. Being able to help Mr. Jason, Jon is also very happy. At least staying with Mr. Jason is much more comfortable than in the depressed Winterfell. So, Jon has temporarily become the bookkeeper in the store these few days, who made Jon read by Jason Lu's subordinates. At this time, Jason Liu can't help but complain about the terribly high illiteracy rate in Westeros. It's not easy to recruit someone who can read. Although he can also write Westeros script, but that is too tiring. As the boss, wouldn't it be nice to sit and count money? All the way from Bygang City to eat and sleep in the open air, everyone and the horses pulling the cart were tired and thin. Todd, a small businessman in Bygang, finally came to the shop of Mr. Jason. "Oh, finally here." Todd picked up a cloth towel, fetched a bucket of water from the people next to him, first drank a large bowl, then fed the horse with water and grass, and then wiped his face with a cloth. Just walked into the store. In the store, Barlow, Mccan, Dick, and the others had doubled the size of the guard team, all wearing black overalls, sweating profusely to the customers, carrying the goods to the carriage outside the store. The whole door of the store shouted the horse neigh, a very lively scene. Todd carefully avoided the two guards who were carrying a large wooden box, walked to the counter, and walked towards the Lord Jason with a smile on his face. "Lord East, the villain is Todd from White Harbor City. Do you salute to your family, and may the gods, old and new, bless you." "May the gods bless you as well, Todd." Taking advantage of his free time, Jason Liu took a sip of water and smiled as he greeted the businessman who seemed to be in trouble. It seemed that the other party had come all the way from White Harbor. "Thank you for the magical paper and pen you brought from the Far East. As the first batch of people who bought paper and pen from you and brought it back to Bygang for sale, the villain returned to Bygang and put the paper and pen on the same day it was sold into the castle of the Earl of White Harbor, and the villain also made a fortune." Todd's sincere tone was full of gratitude. "So, this time I'm here to buy more paper and pens to ship back to Bygang. Please bring me 200 gel pens, 1,000 refills and 1,000 sheets of A4 paper." Jason Liu looked at this small businessman named Todd, from Bygang City, with some surprise. He didn't expect that the other party was actually his first batch of customers, and now he is so bold to buy so many papers and pens. It seems that the guy really made a fortune. With this thought in mind, Jason Liu continued to smile on his face. "No problem at all, and, to tell you the good news, the price of that kind of blank paper has dropped, from the previous 10 bronze stars per piece to -5 bronze stars per piece. Sheet." Hearing the good news, Todd's face suddenly brightened. "Ha, that's great, thank you so much, Master Jason." Jason Liu smiled and shook his head, and then Susan asked Todd to count the corresponding number of paper and pens. Todd saluted Jason Liu gratefully again, and followed Susan aside to get the goods. When he noticed the soap and soap on the counter, a new commodity he had not seen before, Todd, who had a keen sense of smell, immediately asked Susan what these were. When Susan proudly told him that it was soap, and talked about the uses of these two things, and that the adults of the Stark family liked it, and other merchants bought a lot, Todd immediately realized this. Another lucrative commodity. When I asked about the price, a piece of soap was the same price as a gel pen, only 1 ginza a piece, and the soap was the same as the refill, 50 copper stars a piece. The price was so cheap that Todd was immediately moved, so he replaced 100 gel pens with 100 bars of soap, and 500 refills with 500 bars of soap. Mccan and a recently recruited young bodyguard, Gal, helped Todd carry his purchases to the wagon. Todd thanked Mccan and the others, and then drove the carriage to the nearby Old Roads Tavern. After buying food and water for the road, he quickly drove the carriage back to White Harbor. He had a hunch that this time his goods would also sell like gel pens and white paper. Not long after Todd left, Odover, a westbound merchant who was also exhausted but full of energy, also arrived outside Jason Liu's store. Taking a look at the new house being built next to him, Odover stopped paying attention and walked into the store excitedly, shouting, Master Jason, the villain is Odover. I don't know if you remember. Don't you remember the little guy? Odover. Jason Liu looked at the guy who was approaching, stunned for a moment, and quickly remembered who this guy was. Wasn't it the Western businessman Odover who he had been trying to contact before? Greetings to you, dear Lord Jason East. Odover took off the hat on his head, pressed it on his chest, and bowed to Jason Liu with a happy face. Jason Liu came out from behind the counter with a very excited expression on his face. Now he might be able to acquire Kotu gold from Odover. He asked Odover to sit on the side and ordered Bella to bring him a glass of water. Jason Lu sat next to him and asked with a smile, Odover, you must have been exhausted this journey. Did the paper and pens you buy here make you a fortune? Grumbling, Odover took the water glass that Bella brought, poured it directly, then wiped his mouth, and then said with a wide-eyed smile, Thank you, sir, for the magical goods you brought. I really made a lot of money this trip. Pens, so after the goods are sold out, I can't wait to come to you to continue to stock up. After speaking, Odover eagerly stated the quantity he wanted to buy: 400 gel pens, 2,000 refills, 3,000 sheets of white paper. When he learned that there were two popular products, soap and soap, Odover hesitated, exchanged 100 gel pens for 100 bars of soap, and bought 500 bars of soap again. This is the 18 golden dragon. Odover paid the money quickly, and then watched Martha, Susan pack the goods he wanted into the big wooden box according to the number, and finally felt relieved. Jason Lu was not in a hurry to discuss the bullion with Odover, until the other party finished buying the goods. Then he took Odover to sit down again, and chatted about his desire to buy natural gold at a high price of pure gold of equal weight, block thing. When Odover heard this at first, his reaction was exactly the same as Lena and the others at that time, staring strangely at the young adult in front of him, and he couldn't help but suspect that something was wrong with his ears. The nobles in my hometown prefer this kind of natural gold nugget. Everyone thinks that this kind of gold nugget is a gift from God, so it is very popular among nobles. Jason Lu once again came up with this explanation. Hearing this, Odover finally believed that what Mr. Jason said just now was true, although he didn't understand how the people in Mr. Jason's hometown could be so stupid and prefer natural gold nuggets with impurities rather than pure gold of equal weight. However, Odover saw an opportunity here. There are many gold mines in the western region, and although there are not many natural gold nuggets, there should be some. If you can run around and contact the gold mine managers of the nobles, you might be able to make no less money in this business than selling goods. As a result, Odover assured Jason Lu that he would definitely help Mr. Jason to inquire when he returned to the west this time, and if there really was a natural gold nugget, he would definitely find a way to bring it to the north and sell it to him. Hearing Odover say this, Jason Lu was very happy, so he gave him 100 free refills as a reward. Odover thanked him again and again, then walked out of the shop with a smile on his face, got into the carriage that had already loaded the goods, and was ready to return to the west. This time, he intends to send the freight to Castle Rock further west, believing that it will sell for a higher price. When the goods are sold out, he will directly help Lord Jason in Castle Rock City to inquire about natural gold nuggets. If there is any, he will buy it and bring it to the north and sell it to Lord Jason. This time and again is a huge profit. It's a bargain. As soon as Odover walked out of Winterfell, he encountered the convoy of Bert, the great merchant of the Golden Tooth City, behind him. Odover's face changed slightly, and he immediately thought that the other party should be monitoring him, otherwise he would not appear in Winterfell like himself so quickly. However, doing business is like this. Everyone is trying their best to find opportunities to make a fortune. It is not surprising that they have good things to sell in their hands. However, Odover was still a little angry in his heart, ignored the other party, and drove the carriage to speed up. Bert sat in the luxurious carriage with thick blankets until his men told him that they had just passed Odover. In this regard, Bert didn't care, urged his men to speed up, and then sent someone to inquire about the foreign nobleman who was said to be from the Far East. Along the way, he had heard a lot of rumors about the young great nobleman, what kind of benevolence, what cured the mortal baby girl, and what had in his hands a lot of magical goods from the Far East, which made the Stark family in Winterfell. The nobles and adults love it very much. The other Berts don't care, he only cares about whether the magical goods in the hands of Lord East are sufficient. This time, he plans to spend a lot of money to purchase a large amount of goods and transport them back to the west for sale. Didn't you see that he brought several carriages? When Bert's convoy entered the winter market town 10 years later, his subordinates also reported a lot of information to him. One of the things that caught his attention the most was the high-priced acquisition of natural gold nuggets by Mr. Jason East. The other is that there are two new products in the Jason store, soap and soap. Soap, soap. With these two strange and unfamiliar words in his mouth, Bert and his team stayed at the largest inn in Bidong Market Town. It seemed that he couldn't go back to the west side directly today, and he had to wait until dawn tomorrow. I took a shower under the service of a servant, using soap that was specially bought from Jason Lu's store. After taking a bath, I felt tired all the way, and all the greasy and sweaty smell on my body was swept away, and there was even a strong floral fragrance which made Bert even more happy. It seems that this kind of soap and soap should be as rumored, it's all good stuff. So, after changing into a gorgeous new dress, Bert immediately drove the carriage with his subordinates and came to the outside of the store in a mighty manner. When Bert Bancroft introduced himself as a big businessman from the Golden Tooth City in the West Side, Jason Lu received him very warmly, because this was another one with oldover, no, better than oldover for him find a big client of doghead gold. So, Jason Lu warmly invited him to sit down and chatted with each other. Well, not surprisingly, the other party is here to buy goods. Saying that his store has a lot of stock, Jason Lu asked the question he was most concerned about. I wonder if you can get natural gold nuggets in the West, Bert. I can buy it at the price of pure gold of equal weight. Sir, are you serious? Although he had heard the news from the reports of his subordinates, Bert felt it was extraordinarily strange to hear it from the mouth of the young Ice's super-large. In the past, if anyone told him that someone was willing to use the price of pure gold of equal weight to buy natural gold nuggets with impurities, he would definitely smile contemptuously, and then immediately move away from this guy with abnormal brains, so as not to lower his IQ. However, now he was sure from the serious tone of this Lord Jason that this kind of weird and grotesque thing really happened. Well, Mr. Jason said that the people in his hometown like this kind of natural gold nuggets more than pure gold. Bert agrees on the surface, but despises on the inside. Do those guys have problems with their heads? Contempt is contempt, but that doesn't stop Bert from seeing business opportunities in this case, definitely a good deal. There are many gold mines in the West, and there are gold mines in every noble territory. No one paid attention to natural gold nuggets before, but there must be. East, sir, I promise you that when I go back, I will send someone to contact the various families in the western region to buy natural gold bullion for you, and I don't want you to pay for it, just buy it from me at the same weight gold price. You can deduct it from the expenses. Bert said shrewdly. Of course, no problem. Jason Lu is also very happy. This is a good thing that benefits both parties, of course he has to agree. After negotiating the matter of doghead gold, Bert, a big businessman in the Golden Tooth City, directly showed his arrogance. 2,000 gel pens, 20,000 refills, more than 10,000 sheets of A4 paper, 2,000 pieces of soap, and 30,000 pieces of soap. This is the largest order that Jason Lu has encountered so far. The total amount reached nearly 300 gold dragons, which was more than all the money he had sold before. Sure enough, doing business with such a big businessman is the best. Jon, who was helping with the bookkeeping, was also stunned. Although he had long known that Mr. Jason's shop was making gold every day, he was still shocked by a big business transaction of 300 gold dragons. Just to carry the goods, Jason Lu's 10 guards and more than 20 people brought by Bert took a long time to fill Bert's carriage. After personally sending this big client away, Jason Lu was also a little excited at this time. At this time, there were more than 5,700 gel pens left in the store, less than 60,000 refills, more than 5,800 pieces of soap, and nearly 50,000 pieces of soap. All A4 papers are sold out. Feeling that the stock was not enough, Jason Lu returned to Hyundai after closing the store at night, and with 100 gold dragon coins, he contacted Boss Wong of the Hengli Gold Store. Originally, he didn't want to sell him gold coins anymore, but he was short of money to buy goods, and he didn't want to find any more sales channels, so after thinking about it, he still contacted the other party. Knowing that Jason Lu was going to sell the kind of gold coins last time, the boss of Wong 487 suddenly came to the spirit and said that he would invite Jason Lu to dinner first, and then one stop. Being rejected directly by Jason Lu, how can a one-stop shop make money? He, Jason Lu, is so superficial. Said that he must have a meal together next time, and Boss Wong asked him to bring gold coins to the store. Ha ha ha, Brother Lu, I've helped you for a long time, and you finally remembered to take care of your brother's business. As soon as they met, Boss Wang's chubby face smiled like a blooming chrysanthemum, making Jason Lu's whole body covered got goosebumps. Entering the manager's room in the store, Jason Lu took out 100 gold dragon coins and said, "Boss Wang, you must have made a lot of gold coins last time, right? This time can't be the same price as last time, recently international gold prices are skyrocketing." Boss Wang used a magnifying glass to examine the gold coins one by one, and said, "Hush, what Brother Lu said, I am also a small business, and I earn the hard money of a second-order dealer, not much, not much." Jason Lu is calm on the surface, but inside is a tinkling. Strong ghost. After some checking and tossing, Boss Wang determined that these 100 golden dragon coins were the same as last time, and had good collectible value, and he was instantly delighted. The last time he sold that batch of gold coins to a collector, he really made a lot of money. But, businessman, who has the truth? He pretended to be poor and complained, but seeing that Jason Lu was unmoved, Boss Wang had to agree to buy the whole gold at 350 yuan per gram. Jason Lu is quite satisfied with this, although he knows that the fat guy on the other side makes a lot of money, but he doesn't care anymore. The total weight of 100 golden dragon coins is 3,502.47 grams, which is 350 yuan per gram, which is 1,225,864 yuan and 50 fen. Boss Wang generously transferred 12,255,865 yuan to him, causing Jason Lu to roll his eyes at him. God's generosity. Could it be that our two understandings of generosity do not mean the same thing? He secretly complained in his heart, and originally planned to ask Boss Wang if he would make money, but now he doesn't want to talk about it. Looking at the ICBC account entry information sent from the mobile phone, and once again rejecting Boss Wang's kindness to invite you to eat and drink one stop, Jason Lu took a taxi and returned to the villa. I searched the internet and found a paper factory in Jung City. I called and asked, and the other party had A4 paper and other sizes of paper. A0 paper, size 84.1 cm * 118.9 cm. A1 paper, size 59.4 cm * 84.1 cm. A2 paper, size 42.0 cm * 59.4 cm. A3 paper, size 29.7 cm * 42.0 cm. A piece of A1 paper can be cut into 8 pieces of A4 paper, or A2 or A3 paper. If someone needs a larger paper than A4, buying A1 is enough. Hello, so, he and the manufacturer ordered 1 million sheets of A4 paper, 3 fen each, a total of 30,000 yuan. 100,000 sheets of A1 paper, 50 fen each, a total of 50,000 yuan. I asked the manufacturer to deliver the goods as soon as possible today, and the other party knew that they were all in Jung City, so they immediately said that they could load the truck now, and I sent my address and it would be delivered today. Of course, Jason Lu was satisfied with such a quick efficiency. He paid the deposit and sent the address to the other party. When the other party arrived at the warehouse and called him, he could go directly from Villa number 7 in Forest Peninsula, which is not too far from the warehouse. After buying the paper, Jason Lu called the owner Ma of the soap factory again to order more soaps and soaps. "Hello, Mr. Lu, hello." As soon as Boss Ma received the call from his big client, he immediately smiled and his voice was full of surprises. "Boss Ma, I want to place an order for 1,000,000 bars of soap at your factory. I wonder if your factory can handle it." Jason Lu went straight to the topic without much chatter. 1 million yuan. Boss Ma was surprised, and then overjoyed. "No problem, Mr. Lu. My factory can definitely handle your order, please rest assured and leave it to me. I will give you the absolute quality and quantity. Produce it as quickly as possible and ship it." "Well, I'm going to order another 1 million bars of soap, 100,000 bars of soap." Jason Lu said the number, and then warned again and again, "Boss Ma, I won't press your price anymore, but you must give me the if this batch of products is done well, there must be no problems, you know. If it is done well, there will be more orders in the future." Hearing that there was an order of 1.1 million yuan, and there may be more in the future, Boss Ma was very elated and quickly assured, "Mr. Lu, don't worry, my old horse will never smash his signboard, and I also plan to make a new one. Development planning, make your own brand. I have mortgaged my house and car, and I am ready to make a big fight. So, please trust my old horse. Our factory will depend on your orders in the future, and will never do short-sighted behaviors that destroy the trust of both parties. After listening to Lao Ma's words, Jason Lu was surprised. Really? Are you really planning to make the soap produced in your factory a regular brand and bring it to the market? Yes, I have decided. Boss Ma's voice was serious on the phone. It seemed to be true. If you can really do it formally, then I will definitely continue to cooperate with you in the future, and let you know in advance that the amount I will need will be even larger in the future, and it is possible to have tens of millions of bars of soap. Jason Lu decided to give Boss Ma has some confidence and let him do it well. Millions. Boss Ma feels that Mr. Lu is really his lucky star. If there is such a big order in the future, then his factory can definitely develop. Once again, he swore to promise that he would do it seriously, and after talking for a while, Boss Ma ended the call with the big client on the opposite side both excitedly and reluctantly. After receiving a large order of 1 million bars of soap and 100,000 bars of toilet soap, Boss Ma personally went to the factory to pick up, and then recruited people again, working 3 consecutive shifts to ensure the quality of production. At the price of 5 cents per piece, Jason Lu paid Boss Ma a deposit of 150,000 yuan, and the rest will be paid in installments after delivery. After getting the soap and soap, Jason Lu got in touch with the gel pen manufacturer. 100,000 gel pens, 1 million refills. A gel pen is 50 fen, a refill is 5 fen, a total of 100,000 yuan. Pay the deposit first, and then pay the full amount when the goods arrive. This time, such a large batch is enough, and it will cost a total of 730,000 yuan. He now has about 1.24 million in his ICBC account, minus 730,000, and there is still 510,000 left. With so much money in his hand for the first time, Jason Lu sat on the sofa in the living room of the villa with a comfortable expression on his face. This is just the beginning, more will be earned later. After thinking about it, Jason Lu immediately used Alipay to transfer 100,000 to his mother. Don't dare to turn too much, for fear of parents worrying. Sure enough, less than 10 minutes after the transfer, my mother's phone called immediately. Hey, Mom, hee, have you received the money I made for you? Jason Lu said with a smile. Why did you transfer so much money to me all of a sudden? Where did you get so much money? You only work so much in a month. After paying the rent, water, electricity, food, etc., how much money do you have left? Lu's mother knew a little about her son's income, mainly because her daughter Lu Wan told her, so she couldn't help but worry. Jason, don't you do something illegal? Qian Zhao. Jason Lu scratched his head, and knew that he couldn't avoid it, and he would definitely be questioned. Fortunately, he also made an excuse. Mom, what are you talking about? How could I have committed a crime? This is my recent time, and my friends partnered in the soap and daily chemical business, and only made money. Your friend. Lu Ma was still a little suspicious. The phone on the other side shook violently, and then Dad Lu's serious voice came. Jason Lu, you bunny must not do anything illegal. Otherwise, when you come back, Lousy will break your dog's legs. You hear no? Hearing that his father warned himself indiscriminately first, Jason Lu couldn't help but feel depressed. His father had always been at home since he was a child, and he was strictly controlled. The father and son are both introverted and stubborn because they have the same temper. After going to college, Jason Lu usually works part-time in Zheng City without going home, even though Zheng City is only 300 kilometers away from his hometown. The main reason was that he didn't want to be controlled by his father, and the conditions of their family were not very good at that time. He wanted to do odd jobs to earn money to pay for tuition. Although he also knew that his father was farming at home, he was running around doing odd jobs in the slack farming season, which was very hard work. However, I don't know why, the two people just have different personalities, and they have to quarrel without saying a few words when they get together. Anyway, he usually doesn't talk too much about life and work with his father, and even when he calls home, he calls his mother. Alas, in a word, both he and his father are the kind of people who don't easily confide in others. Their emotions are extremely subtle, obviously for the good of each other, but they always express it in the worst way. Thinking that he and his father are so similar in character, and because they are too similar to each other, they look down on each other, AAA, thinking of this, Jason loses a helpless smile. I really don't know how to deal with it. To others, it is easy to say, I love you, father, and, son, I love you, but in the eyes of Dad Lu and Jason Lu, it is too embarrassing to say it at all, very awkward. He couldn't think of a solution for the time being, so Jason Lu stopped worrying, took a breath, and didn't want to quarrel with his dad on the phone again. Dad, don't worry, if I do something illegal, I will definitely be arrested. 487 Get up. I'm still young, so I won't risk my whole life. Don't worry, this money is really earned by me and my friends doing soap business. Dad Lu was silent for a while, and his tone was not as rushed as before. Can you make so much money buying soap? I don't believe it. Doing foreign trade. They are all sold to foreigners. Our country's products are high quality and cheap, and foreigners like to buy them. Therefore, we have made a lot of money for more than a month, and each person has divided more than 100,000. Jason Lu relied on his father to stay in the village to farm all his life, and he ran to the provincial capital as far as possible, and he didn't know anything about foreign trade. In exchange for a few dollars for us, we sell a piece of soap for a few dollars, and the net profit is many times, and they still say it is cheap. Can we not make money? Dad Lu, who was on the phone, BAFG, was completely dumbfounded. He really didn't understand what was going on in foreign trade. He also knew that selling domestic things to foreigners was called foreign trade. As for tariffs, he didn't know. After a few breaths, Dad Lu finally said, then you work hard, earn more money from foreigners, and return the mobile phone to Mama Lu. Listening to his father's words, Jason Lu is also a little ashamed, but he sells things to foreigners in another world. Isn't it just doing foreign trade with foreigners? Son, what kind of foreign trade are you doing? What about your job? Lu's mother was concerned about her son's job. After all, she didn't have a formal job after marrying a wife. It was really hard to let others match her. Don't worry, Mom, I earn a higher salary than that one, and, in the future, if this one earns a lot of money, we will open a company. Jason Lu coaxed his mother to be happy. He first took out his future plans and said, being a boss is much better than a part-time job. So, you and my dad don't worry about me. I will transfer the money to you. You should Wawa, don't save me, I should respect you too. Ha ha ha, it's good that you have this heart, and it's your mother, I didn't hurt you in vain. Hearing her son's words, Lu's mother laughed happily. However, we can't spend much money in the village, so you will save your money for you to marry a wife later. Now you can buy a house or a car or something, go to the Wi-Fi home. Then, Mama Lu began to talk about the shortcoming of the parents in the village, and Jason Lu was full of tears and laughs. Finally, Mama Lu started to urge him to find a partner quickly, and then get married and have children as soon as possible. She heard that young people don't have time to take care of children now, so she said that she will take care of the child after giving birth, not your little husband and wife. Unexpectedly, this time he would even have to give birth to a child, so Jason Lu wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, dealt with his mother and quickly hung up the phone. Call. Too frightening. After looking at the time, it was almost noon, so I took a taxi and went to the city's snack street for a stroll. It only cost a few hundred yuan to eat comfortably. Little money. The swelled Lu, he doesn't feel bad about spending money anymore. In the afternoon, 100,000 sheets of A1 paper and 1 million sheets of A4 paper ordered from Jiangxi Paper Mill were delivered. He took a taxi back to the warehouse and asked the driver to drive the truck in and unload dozens of large cartons. He checked the goods, the types and numbers were correct, and after signing, he directly transferred the remaining money to the paper mill. After the people from the paper mill left, he was busy transporting all the boxes to Westeros by himself. Dozens of large boxes directly filled his room. Then let Barlow and the other 10 people carry them down one box at a time. Although still curious when the boxes were delivered to Lord Jason's room, no one dared to ask. It's better to work honestly. Lord Jason is a great noble from the Far East. Privately, the guards guessed that Lord Jason's father was at least the Duke of the Empire. Presumably if Jason Lu's father Lu Jianhua knew that a farmer who had been dealing with the land for half his life, he was regarded as some hell of an imperial duke, and he might have slapped his son away. The lousy family of 3 generations of poor peasants is a noble kiss of a big boss. After instructing Mccan that he would go out later, so that they would not have to wait for him at night, Jason Lu sent them away and returned to the modern age again. Living in Westeros for more than a month, I feel quite happy, but coming back here is a different feeling. Looking up at the gray sky, Jason Lu stretched. It's still a familiar sky, a familiar smell. I looked at the roads and bustling streets where cars came and went, and it was a little different when I looked again. In the past, after get off work and vacation, he stayed in the rented house, slept late, ordered takeout, lay in bed, and played with his mobile phone, and the day was over. What to go out to play, what to watch a movie, a single dog is not worthy. Well, the main thing is to go out alone. There are 2 men and women everywhere who spread dog food anytime and anywhere. It's really heartbreaking. It's better to stay at home by yourself, drink happy water, play games, and see the beautiful anchor lady. I took a taxi and prepared to go back to the villa. I didn't want to go shopping alone. Sitting in the car, he then remembered that he should buy a car, otherwise it would be inconvenient to travel. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe my channel.